The other day we were talking on the show and Luke mentioned he saw some report about U.S. diplomats getting swabbed in the bum by China. And it turns out it's a real story. U.S. diplomats were going to China and China gave them the infamous COVID-19 butt swab. And the U.S. is extremely angry about it. But come on, what's Joe Biden going to do? He's going to be like, hey, look here, China, I'll do whatever you say. And that's what's going to happen. The U.S. is entirely shifting its focus away from China, even after things like this, towards Russia, Syria. Sanctions on Russia are coming. Joe Biden just launched an airstrike on Syria. And all of a sudden, all these Democrats are like, actually, this time it's okay, even though many of them were saying that Donald Trump had no authority to do this. Now, Joe Biden does it. And this is proportional. Great. Well, I'll be, look, my respect to the progressives who are calling out Joe Biden really angry because they were like, yo, I voted for you to give me a check, not to blow up kids in a foreign country. But I'm kind of like, we warned you, man. And all I can really say is welcome to the fight. Thank you for pushing back on this insanity. And I agree with you. Joe Biden's supposed to be giving Americans COVID relief. He's not doing that. So we got those stories. We got this crazy story about a giant golden Trump at CPAC that's making everybody, angry, actually. Like even conservatives are getting mad at the absurdity of this golden idol of Trump. And then we have some other funny stories. We'll see what we get to. There was one where apparently American Airlines reported a strange cylindrical object floating over it. So military weapon, aliens. We'll see. Hanging out with us today, we got Drew Holden. How's it going, man? You want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hey, guys. My name's Drew. I'm back on the program. Really excited about it. You may know me from Twitter for being the annoying guy with all the lists. If you've seen the list emoji, I use it far too often, the thread emoji. And I'm happy to be here talking about a lot of stuff. Obviously, we've had a lot of hypocrisy afoot lately, and so it's always good talking about liberal hypocrisy. I find there's usually enough of it to go around.
There's just so much. It's like mining, and then it's just there.
Yeah.
It's like, this one's easy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's always like you hit an oil well in a lot of ways, because all you got to do is turn and just look back a little bit, right? Sometimes
6
months,
weeks, yeah.
Yeah, 6 weeks, couple of months, sometimes a year or two.
Right
but as long as you go back far enough, you can always find something that was just patently ridiculous. And the latest, of course, we have is Syria.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much for joining us. And just to begin off here, I would humbly like to say that I feel like Nostradamus today.
Oh, yeah.
We were talking about these, I don't know why people call them swabs. They're really probes. They go inside of you 3 inches. Important talking point here when describing what just happened to the U.S. diplomats in China. So, yeah, I was talking about it yesterday. We were talking about it weeks ago. I said it was going to be expanded. I was talking about it years ago on my independent media channel, We Are Change. And if you would like more Nostradamus-like content, you could get it on wearechange.org. Go there right now, and in the top right-hand corner, just put in your email list. It is imperative to keep me alive. And if you want to support Nostradamus, you could also buy my t-shirts like the one I'm wearing right now, which we're going to be talking about later in a related story, which you could exclusively get on thebestpoliticalshirts.com. Thanks so much for having me.
And you know me, everybody. Ian Crossland, what's up? Coming at you. IanCrossland.net. And Drew, I'm glad you're here. We can rip apart the liberal economic order. I don't know if you're familiar with that. And the derangement of the term liberty.
Yes.
It's been coerced in a bit. But thanks for joining, man. Good to see you guys.
Pleasure's mine. Pleasure's mine.
And then I'm in the corner pushing buttons for these guys, and this is going to be a wild conversation. I hope you guys are ready for this.
But before we jump into the podcast, we have an awesome sponsor today. Ladies and gentlemen, we got Virtual Shield. Just go to surfinginternetsafe.com and you can get 50% off for life, a virtual private network service. What this is a basic level of security for you as you browse the internet. We know that there are hackers. We know that there are government agencies and nefarious individuals who want to break in, steal your data, track you, spy on you, and even these big tech companies. They know everything about you. They know really, really weird and creepy, intimate things about you. Well, a VPN is that basic level of protection where not only are you locking your doors and windows, but you're pulling down the shades so they can't see in. The analogy I always give is we don't expect people to break into our homes, but we still lock our front doors. Go to Surfing Internet Safe, and you can get, like I said, Virtual Shield at 50% off. The link is in the description below. It's just $2.50 per month. And you can enjoy 24 months of online security from the world's easiest and fastest VPN for only $59.88, over 77% off, they say, plus 50% off all add-ons and other great discounts on their other plans. They're also proud to announce that this month, all discounts are guaranteed for life. That means 50% off for as long as you are a customer. Virtual Shield is awesome, you guys. They've been a sponsor since I started doing YouTube. Literally, when I had only a couple thousand, I think I had a few 10,000, like, what number? I don't know, 50,000 subscribers. I don't know what the number was. And they sponsored my show back when I wasn't getting that much traffic, and they've stuck with us all this time because they're legit, and I'm eternally grateful. So again, surfinginternetsafe.com. And don't forget to go to timcast.com, become a member for exclusive members-only segments. We did one yesterday talking about Lady Gaga's dogs getting kidnapped and how Luke and I were threatening to go John Wick on anybody who threatens our pets. If you want to hear it, timcast.com, become a member. But let's talk about this first story. It's a Friday night, everybody, and we're going to make sure that you're getting only the best of entertainment.
Highbrow.
We were like, should we talk about Joe Biden and the nuclear code? It was very serious. And then Luke was like, we got to talk about the Chinese shoving stuff up U.S. diplomats' butts. And I said, I don't know if it's the most important story in the world, but it's certainly entertaining.
Well, we were talking about this story. I mean, I came in here. I was like, do you guys believe this is happening? And I went off on a tangent. And I was very elaborative about it. And you thought this was a joke.
Yeah, I was like, man, this guy and his metaphors. This is fantastic.
I'm like, no.
It's hitting, it's gripping. I'm like, God, I wonder what the diplomats have.
Yeah.
What was this?
Yeah,
Still happening.
mainstream media news, U.S. official asks China to not subject their staff to COVID behind probes that go inside of you. And of course, the Chinese response was very telling. At first, they were like, no, this never happened. I don't know what you guys are talking about. They denied it. Now they're saying, oh, this was done in error,
Whoopsie.
and we promise it won't be ever done again.
Well, so
sure.
here's what happened. The State Department's pissed. All right, we have the story from the Hill. State Department says it never agreed to China giving U.S. diplomats COVID-19 anal tests. They say Chinese officials who forced American diplomats to undergo bum swabs for COVID-19 did so in error. The State Department told The Hill on Thursday as Beijing denies it conducted the tests at all. The Washington Post reported last week that U.S. officials had said some American personnel in China complained that they were being subjected to anal swab tests for coronavirus by Chinese authorities. This is so obvious what they're doing. They're doing this to subjugate and humiliate.
Mm-hmm.
What they're doing makes no sense.
They're going to clone them.
Well, it depends.
With what?
The DNA?
From the poop?
No.
From the DNA from the butt.
Yeah, I think
From
it's
the
more than
butt.
that.
I'm kidding.
I think
Yeah,
no.
you're right.
Ian is onto something.
Yeah, you're right.
Because there was official U.S. government sources coming out just a few days ago talking about how China was trying to get the COVID tests that were used in order to get
They have our
DNA
DNA.
samples from Americans so they could better predictively predict the market and dominate it in the pharma industrial complex game. Yes, I'm not kidding you.
Yeah.
So
China now is on this huge rampage of them trying to get as much information as they can. They understand information is the new oil. They've been on this huge race trying to get as much as they can because they know, hey, if we get everyone's DNA, we're going to know what they're going to get sick of in the future. We're going to know what ailments they're going to have. We're going to know what pills to make, what medicine to make to sell it back to the United States at a cheaper profit that we're going to mass produce, and we're going to outcompete the other competitors in this larger pharma industrial complex. So this was a legit thing that they're talking about, and there's a reason politicians bring their own toilets when they visit other countries. The information you could get from your is extremely important, and many politicians literally, I mean, there's reasons Secret Service literally has a detail, probably ones with the bad political opinions, but the Secret Service has a detail that is in charge of collecting the president's poop to make sure a foreign country doesn't get it, because if they do, they'll
Makes
look the
sense.
story up. Yep,
That's
I'm telling you. So this
crazy.
is more than just ridicule, in my opinion. It wouldn't surprise me if these larger butt probes were done in a way to get the DNA of U.S. diplomats in some kind of larger information grab that, of course, the Chinese will use to their advantage in their fifth generational warfare, larger propaganda efforts that they're in charge of. So, yeah, a lot of this stuff is real. I've been talking about this for years. People have been looking at me like you're crazy. I'm like, they're going into your behinds. Watch your behinds for years.
All
I'm
right,
like,
Alex.
oh, you're kidding. You're just I'm like, I'm not joking. Like, I'm telling you, this is coming. And this little thing with the diplomats is only going to, of course, be the start of this, since they're going to be expanding this, and other countries are going to recognize, hey, we can get everyone's DNA. Let's get it.
We got to fact check. They don't go around collecting the president's poop because they're scared of people collecting it. They bring secure portable toilets
Yes.
for the president for security reasons.
Yes.
Because if the president's like in a mall bathroom or whatever,
Right.
it's like it's a security risk.
Another risk is, of course, that people getting information on the president from the inside of the poop. Lydia,
Well,
Makes sense, yeah. Does make sense.
Luke is correct. From
Yeah.
NPR, China
pulled this
wants
up,
your
yeah.
DNA and may already have it.
Yeah.
I saw that go by. Yeah.
They say as COVID cases began to rise a year ago, a Chinese company contacted several U.S. states and offered to set up testing labs. As a byproduct, the Chinese firm, Beijing Genomics Institute, would likely gain access to the DNA of those tested. The offer was tempting for states struggling to set up their own testing facilities for a new virus on short notice.
Right.
But U.S. national security officials urged the states to reject the offer, citing concerns about how China might use personal data collected on Americans. Quote, "We certainly reached out to our partners and the community to make sure people were aware that the Chinese were pushing out these tests, informing them of what the risks were, and really asking them not to take the tests," said Mike Orlando, the head of the National Counterintelligence and Security Center, which is part of the Office of the Director of National Intelligence. As far as I know, they all turned them down. So there's actually a bunch of stories about this. They've been trying to get access to American DNA.
Have you guys ever used those 23andMe tests?
Yeah, it's the same idea.
I've never taken them. Have you guys?
either.
Have you taken them before?
No, my brother did recently though, so I guess all my DNA is out
you're
there.
in. Yeah, you're.
I just don't. I don't know if it's a big deal, but I don't want to speed up the process if it might be. So I
Right.
just haven't.
No, it's a huge
This is
deal.
This is crazy. From Newsweek, China wants your DNA and it's up to no good. From Gordon G. Chang, an author. This is from November of 2020, and he says, "Why does China want such sensitive data? Beijing is determined to dominate the biotech industry. Beijing may also be developing biological weapons designed to target certain ethnic groups."
Yep, I had that. I had that in my list. I was waiting to
Dude.
talk about that because again, we have to understand it's not just the pharma industrial complex that's going to be screwed over if China gets all of our DNA. That's going to outbid them and know what people are going to be sick of and know what the demand is in the big pharma markets. But it's also bioweapons that, of course, could be used, could be genetically engineered to specifically go after individuals with a specific genotype and only affect them. So this is larger biological warfare stuff that, of course, is being studied, being conducted. A lot of it the United States is paying for, but a lot of it is ending up in the hands of the Chinese, which is absolutely perplexing, mind-boggling, and infuriating to find out. I mean, Dr. Fauci was literally responsible and was one of the bigger founders behind that level 3 Wuhan laboratory inside of China. Not many people want to talk about this, but they were doing gain of function data studies on the coronaviruses linked to the bats, specifically talking about how they can engineer them. Again, not trying to come up with any theories here. I'm just stating some facts that were talked about by the U.S. mainstream media and admitted to them. I'm not jumping to any conclusions, but it's an important fact to understand here that this did happen.
I mean, New Yorker had a piece that explored this concept, right? And I think one of the things that we probably don't give China enough credit for is they are evaluating different ways of fighting asymmetric warfare, of thinking about ways that they can get a jump on the United States, and that's everything from building new battleships to exploring the ways that they can use biological weapons and biological
exploring
tools.
the rectums of these U.S.
Yes.
diplomats.
And speaking of
Lots of
exploring,
exploration,
yeah,
yes.
and Tim, I'm also with you. I think on your earlier point too, because I think some of this is just a power game, right?
Yeah.
I'm reminded of how during the Cold War, the U.S. State Department, this is back when we were tough and good at things, I think, a long time ago in U.S. foreign policy, the Russia desk would only hire diplomats from the United States who were men who were over 6 feet, because they wanted to make sure that there was a better chance that they would be able to physically look down on their Russian counterparts.
Wow.
Psychological.
So much of it is, I mean,
Yep.
think about it. Like it's just a giant game of chess, at least to the state. As far as the State Department sees the world, so much of it is just a big chess game. And so why not have every advantage you can?
But think about this too. Like China has no shame. They want to win,
Exactly.
and they'll do whatever it takes.
Exactly.
Even looking in the butts of our diplomats. And I know it's funny, but this is serious too, because we wouldn't do that for the most part. The
Right.
United States probably isn't even thinking about having someone open up, spread their cheeks and then take a sample.
Yeah.
But China knows there's things we'll learn and secrets we'll gain access to by understanding the diets, the gut biomes
Right.
of these people.
Right.
And if they can produce look, we know that like gut bacteria is very important. What if they're thinking, can we craft something that is a detriment to American diet gut bacteria, and that
Easy.
causes Americans to become bloated and tired? It's a hypothetical.
Well,
but
there's,
seriously,
like,
there's a lot you can learn from this.
Sickle cell anemia
Yes.
notoriously was harming the African American population
does, yeah.
for whatever reason. It's not a fecal. It's not like a bacterial disease. It's a blood disease. It might be. It's formed
Genetic.
What do you know about?
so it's part of I think it's part of the blood cell. It's part of the shape of the African American blood cell, and it is different. It is based on the genome. And I've talked to people who have advanced scientific degrees This is one of those conversations you can't have, but they did tell me you can design things that only attack certain genomes.
Right.
They only attack certain races. This is something China has thought about. Americans don't think about it. Chinese think about everything.
Well,
They've thought about our kids
well,
with TikTok.
yeah.
They're thinking about bioweapons, maybe possibly with COVID. I don't know. We're not conspiring here, but
Well, the U.S. has been talking about bioweapons,
Right.
especially with some classified documentation
we
that
taking
came out
poop?
for a very long time, ever since the Vietnam War. Now, as far as how clandestine and how overt they are, we don't know, because a lot of it is clandestine. A lot of it is something that we don't know. There's no transparency. There's no accountability. Whether on China, they just do everything out in the open. But also with, you have to understand, you could get someone's DNA from a nose swab. You could also get it from a behind swab, not a swab, probe.
Yeah.
You could get it from a butt probe as well. So they most likely, now the Chinese have a whole bunch of DNA samples on all the U.S. diplomats that willingly took their pants off when the Chinese government said, take them off. And they did, which is, I mean, just imagine being a U.S. diplomat and just saying, yeah, sure, China, here, I'll pull
Instead
my
of
pants
being
down.
like, I'll get on a plane and leave right
Like,
now.
Yeah, right,
Instead
right.
of having some like dignity and saying, hey, no,
Right.
you're not sticking anything up my butt. Like, I'm
Anything?
sorry. Like, have some courage here. The
Luke,
U.S. State
trust
Department
the
had to
science.
release.
Trust the science. That's what it's all about. You got to trust science.
Yeah, I mean,
Are you
that's-
saying you hate science?
China
China is your
here.
friend, Luke.
Yeah. So
Science
that's
is
where
a
we're at.
big hammer, and if you use it improperly, you can do a lot of harm with it.
Yeah.
This is gross.
It is.
Gross stuff.
Do you think
But,
I
you know,
want to get an
it's
interview?
asymmetrical warfare.
I
Yeah.
want to get an interview with one of these diplomats and just hear it from their own mouths.
What were you thinking?
They'll
They
be like
put it up
shaking
my
and
butt.
rocking back and forth. and
Yeah,
they'll be
exactly.
like,
Corner.
they don't make water hot enough.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like,
His hands were cold.
at what point would they just kind of look to their supervisor or superior and be like, do we have to do this? Like,
Yeah.
like at one point was somebody just like, actually, we're going to call back to the embassy and we're going to check on this one real quick.
Yeah.
Give us 5 minutes.
What is
Yeah.
it like for U.S. diplomats? Are they like under the finger of the Communist Party when they're over there?
That's a good question.
don't know.
Probably not. I would assume not, only because they spend so much time on American properties, right, on embassies and consulates. The interesting thing, though, this is something I could have expected from the American media, because they very much live under the thumb of Beijing while they're over there. But you would think that the American diplomatic corps would have a little bit more, dignity, a little bit more self-esteem, and a little bit more of an ability to push back and say, no, we're not going to do this. But
Or-
listen, we're living in strange times, and so
America's becoming weak.
yes,
We can. It's easy
there's a
for
big metaphor here.
It's easy for Biden to be like, I'm going to bomb Syria, because what's Syria going to do about it? And we go up against Russia because Russia could fight back to a certain degree, but ultimately, what are they going to do about it? China? Oh,
Yeah.
we can't fight China. They'll win, and they're winning. That's the scary reality of everything that's going on.
And I think so much of it is they want to see, like, and this to me more than anything else is they want to see what they can get away with, right? This is in so many ways, this is just a microcosm of the sorts of things that they're doing in the South China Sea, the sorts of things they're doing in Tibet, the sorts of things that they're doing investing in Africa and Eastern Europe. This is a power play, right? So much of this is a power play, and it's how far can we push the big guy on the block, the United States, and get away with doing this kind of stuff. And if we can keep doing this, right, if the Belt and Road program can run through traditional U.S. allies across Africa, if we can muscle our way into Tibet, if we can muscle our way into Hong Kong, why can't we do some rear-end swabs on U.S. diplomats? Why
Or
isn't that
just-
the next step?
It's incremental.
Yeah.
It sounds silly to a lot of people. They probably don't think it's that big of a deal, but it's just one more grain of sand making a bigger heap, where China says we can do whatever we want. We can go to an American and say, take off your pants and bend
Yep.
over right now. And they'll go, yes, sir. Yes, no problem, sir.
When I first heard it, I think yesterday maybe you brought it up.
Yeah,
I just
I
kinda-
was bringing it up yesterday. I heard about it. I was looking at the sources like, we need to confirm this.
Yeah.
Because we were talking about this a few weeks ago. We were saying, hey, China has developed a new way to test for COVID, and it's going up your buttocks 3 inches to swab you. And I'm like, this is not what you think it is. It's coming. It's going to be expanded. And now here we are today. Sorry, Ian,
It
go ahead.
It almost like washed over me yesterday. I was just like, oh, well, whatever. It happened. Let's go. I'm not surprised. But they lied
decay,
about
man.
it. They lied.
Yeah.
They lied about it big time. That's really a big deal, man. This is bad.
Yeah.
It's a decay. It's just like everything seems to be heading down into the crapper. You know,
Yeah.
pun intended.
Literally and figuratively.
Yes, right. I was going to say, yeah.
Well, no,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and so much of this too is it's China stepping back and not just pushing to see where they can go, but to forgive the pun, but probing where the weaknesses are, right? Where are the vulnerabilities? Where are the places where U.S. diplomats aren't don't have a level head about them in terms of the decisions they're going to make, the power that they're gonna stand up against, and the things that they're unwilling to do. And I think the more they do that,
I want to use it to jump to the next segment. We'll talk about the weakness of the United States.
Yeah.
So we have this story that came up a little while ago from military.com. Dozens of House Democrats call on Biden to give up sole nuclear launch authority. This is crazy, but it shouldn't be unexpected. Joe Biden he's not all with it. I think that's fair to say. There's been reports that Kamala Harris has been doing his job for him because he's been napping in the sun, as I predicted. Yeah, she's talking to foreign leaders on his behalf or whatever. And now they're saying, we think Joe Biden should give up sole power to launch nuclear weapons. And you know what? I agree. I agree. I don't think a senile old crackpot should be holding nuclear football.
You give it up to who?
To open it up to other people. Now, that's a problem. Who are these other people? Maybe, you know what? This is the problem of having, a president who's in only because people hated the other guy.
Yeah.
Clearly right now you've got all of the Democrats complaining. Well, not all of them. I'm sorry. All of the progressives complaining about Biden. Some of the Democrats, but many of them just saying Biden can do no wrong.
Right.
You get a president who's based on hating the other guy. And he's basically, what's the difference? A lot of people say he's going to do a lot of the same foreign policy things. He's actually doing worse. People are worried now we're going to lose this peace we're developing in the Middle East. He's going to destabilize everything. But I'm sorry, he is a senile old crackpot who was elected without the ability to be president. And now Democrats are saying he should give up the sole power of the nuclear launch.
Dude, he just bombed Syria.
Well,
let me just get this out really quick. I don't know much about this bombing of Syria. I read some mainstream news articles from NBC and some other, and they were like, it's in retaliation to Iran. Okay, obviously NBC is going to say that. The other one was, this is actually a perverse way of improving diplomatic relations with Iran because it's going to be forcing them to the whatever. It's sickening. I'm sorry, Luke, what were you saying?
No. Well, so let me read some of this story from military.com. They say nearly 36 House Democrats are urging President Joe Biden to relinquish his sole authority to order the launch of nuclear weapons, arguing that no single person should wield apocalyptic military power. They say vesting one person with this authority entails real risks. Past presidents have threatened to attack other countries with nuclear weapons or exhibited behavior that causes other officials to express concerns about the president's judgment, according to the letter, which was spearheaded by California Reps Jimmy Panetta and Ted Lieu. Now, interestingly, Nancy Pelosi tried doing this with Donald Trump in, I believe it was after November.
Yeah.
She went to the Joint Chiefs, I believe it was the Joint Chiefs, and she said, block Trump's ability to order missile strikes. And they said, ma'am, that would be a military coup. We can't do that.
Yeah.
The commander-in-chief has the ability to fire the nukes. They're taking this away. Who would get it? It sounds to me like, I'm going to say as cliche as possible. All of these things are just ripping this country into a million pieces. That's it.
Well, I never agree with politicians, but these politicians make sense. When they're talking about one person on this earth that has the power to press one button and end the human race, I'm sorry, that's a little bit too much power. When we're going to be engaging in nuclear war, we're engaging in a war that's going to end civilizations as we know it. And I agree with these Democrats. I never thought I would say this, but I agree on the merits here.
I don't agree.
I do. I think it should be decentralized. I think definitely it shouldn't be one senile old man who doesn't know where he is half the time. Sometimes.
So that's a problem of Joe Biden. But then the issue is you're creating exponentially more vulnerabilities with each individual. You'll give the ability to press a button. Let's put it this way. You got Joe Biden as a senile old crackpot, and that freaks me out because he might press the button and fire a nuke. They said Donald Trump was sporadic and erratic, and he might press the button and launch a nuke. That's still only 2 people. Add 10 more people, and now you got to keep track of each and every one of them who might launch a nuke.
It'd be cool if you needed all of them to agree.
Well, I think that's my question too. Is what is the
no? That can't work either.
Is the alternative that we have just a bunch of different checks and balances, if you will, before you can fire the nuke? Because to me, if that's the case, I guess that makes sense. But if you start truly federalizing the nuclear launch codes and really start having that many hands in the kitchen,
here's what's going to happen: the Chinese communist dictator, Xi Jinping, is going to be like, I can launch all of the nuclear weapons, and they will have no time to retaliate. Yeah. We win. We win. China will succeed, our cities will be fine, and every nuke will explode over America before they even realize it.
I guess you could automate a defensive response and only, federate the offensive to 6 people that need to agree and turn a key at the same time.
No, but the issue is...
There's something really convenient about just having one.
Well, maybe
There's a reason why we have a president who is the commander-in-chief. It's so that we can respond quickly and instantly to serious militaristic threats.
Well, maybe just add one more person that's sound mind that's next to him.
Just for Joe.
Like even then.
So this is the
like,
problem. So
yeah.
what? They give us a crackpot president and use it as an excuse to disseminate
To
the launch codes to a
decentralize.
bunch of other people.
When we gave the president the power like that, we didn't have world-ending weapons
Yeah.
at the push of a button.
True.
No, we did. When we created the nuclear weapons, we're like, Mr. President, they're yours.
Well, when we created the office of the president and gave them all that executive power, we didn't have nuclear weapons that could end the human race.
So the problem is, unless you can answer me this, when China and Russia know, as autocrats, they can snap their fingers and blow up the U.S. and we can't respond, what defense do we have?
I don't think Biden could respond anyway. He'd probably be sleeping.
I know.
You need an automated response.
Better by giving more people the launch codes. The problem is we are in a very seriously dangerous position because Joe Biden is a pathetic, senile old crackpot. I'm being a little hyperbolic.
No,
but
you're
let's
right.
be
No,
real.
you're
It's
right.
showing the cracks in the system.
Yeah.
So now you've got Vladimir Putin. What is he? He's former KGB, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's riding on a horse with no shirt on.
Yeah.
A bear, I thought.
And he's so brutal. I mean, look at the dude who's trying to run against him who gets poisoned all the
Yeah,
time.
Navalny.
all the
Mysterious.
time.
This
Yeah,
guy
yeah.
is probably laughing his ass off like Joe Biden.
Yeah. And
What's
it really,
he gonna do?
It really does beg the question of if we don't trust him with this responsibility of a president, right? Because that's all. Like
That's
we
a
can fight
huge-
about
yeah.
whose it should be, but if this is a duly charged role of the president, and we can't trust him to do this, then what else can't we trust him to do, right? And what other settings does he not? Is he not someone we want to be presidential? If we can't trust him to be the only one with his finger on the trigger for the nuclear buttons, do we trust him one-on-one in a room with Xi Jinping or with Putin?
Yeah.
I mean,
know,
again,
I
like these,
don't.
like, and again, the as Tim was pointing out, the people who know this want to do us harm.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. The vulnerability is there, whether it's two people or not, because of Joe Biden. I
Yeah.
made the shirt that I'm wearing right now months ago, and it says, "I'm Joe Biden, and I forgot this message." This sentiment was true months before the election. It was true every time he got on stage. There's a reason they kept him in the basement. There's a reason he didn't do many public speaking events. He does a lot of gaffes. He messes up a lot of the time. Sometimes he messes up the locations where he's actually in.
Yep.
And that's extremely concerning for the man that literally has his finger on the button and could end the world with one
I want to
click.
just make an observation too. It's not Biden that's the problem. It's the cognitive decline of the human brain that's the problem, and that's going to be no matter what is going on.
Yeah, what
Cyber Biden. we need to get Elon Musk to Neuralink Biden.
Yes.
To give him a tune-up. Could you
And
imagine?
we could plan
And then
like a
Elon
video.
Musk
Wait,
has
wait.
the nuclear launch code.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
George
Yeah.
Alexopoulos has an image of this. So the paintings you guys see on the walls behind everybody is George Alexopoulos, and one of his memes is Biden sitting in this chair with like a
Yeah.
electrode helmet attached to his head, and he's like drooling as children are being fed to him. And it is a real piece of art. It's hilarious.
Right.
But I'm kidding. We're not going to make cyber Biden, but it is a good point. The ultimate problem I see with this is this office is important and powerful for a reason.
Right.
You have Congress. They legislate. They're slow and nobody likes them. They're not meant to respond very, very quickly when we're being attacked. The president can declare a state of emergency and take unilateral action. And that's their excuse for like bombing Syria, which is dumb because Syria's not doing anything to us. The problem is they hated Trump so much that they were like, we would rather have, listen, I'm gonna stop. They said when Donald Trump got elected, you know, there's a lot of Republicans saying you're attacking the pilot of the plane because you don't like the way he talks over the intercom. You're going to make the plane crash. They hated Trump so much because as he's flying the plane, he gets in the intercom and he won't shut up. And you're like, just stop, right?
Yeah, right.
So then some doting, some dotard is sitting there drooling all over himself and like, I want him to fly the plane. And now they put the sleepy, creepy Joe who's sitting in the pilot seat, drooling on himself, sleeping, and the plane's going, and like falling down. And they're like, better than the guy yelling at us for, the entire plane ride. And
Right.
He had 2 brain aneurysms. My goodness. I mean, like that.
It's like gonna give Luke an aneurysm.
It's just utterly insane. Also, the timing of this is very important because this letter came out right before he unilaterally decided to launch airstrikes on Syria.
Right.
Of course, without constitutional approval, without congressional authorization, and according to many, illegal under international law, but really just continuing the policy that Barack Obama codified in 2014 and just bombed another country without any kind of oversight, transparency, or even accountability.
It's for natural gas. Biden says no
Yeah.
Keystone Pipeline in America, but
You know what to
Turkey
do.
pipeline in Syria.
Yeah.
See, it's okay when foreign contractors go and build gas pipelines in other countries that we're blowing up. Not okay when American workers do it. And it's kind of like, I mentioned this before. They love outsourcing jobs. They love outsourcing factories. And then they don't want any of it here. It's almost like a not in my backyard thing. They're like, we want the oil, we want the gas, but not in my backyard.
Even from a pipeline, right? That's the other thing too, is the richest part. Yeah, no, it's insane. And like, listen, it's got to hurt. Of all of the people who it probably stings for these strikes, it has to hurt the worst for Neera Tanden, who famously said that we are going to attack Libya to take the oil, and now she is seeing us attack Syria for no good reason, and she's probably, like, her eyes are probably lighting up with dollar signs at the very thought of it.
Yeah.
And yet her confirmation is going to get railroaded because she's
because she tweeted a bunch
awful.
of really dumb things.
Yeah, that, but also, like, she's, like, by all indications, a bad person. She punched a reporter one time, which I don't think you're supposed to do. And perhaps one of the most awful things, even if you just look at it through the way that the Dems see the world, but I think the way that we all see the world too, is she, in an all-staff meeting, she outed one of her employees at CAP when she worked there at the think tank for bringing charges of sexual harassment against their boss. And so as they were talking about it, she just outed this private concern and complaint.
The people who are look, man, the federal government is just a swamp.
Yeah.
And there's like a tiny handful of people who are stepping through the swamp that are okay, but for the most part, it's a swamp. Trump did not drain the swamp. The swamp is just murkier than ever, and Joe Biden's back in, and he is a swamp monster.
Yeah, and think about it. He's got so many people that he's inherited who are former Biden or Obama alums.
Yeah.
And they're like, what have they been doing for the last 4 years since they left the Obama White House?
Trump?
Or they've just been making a bunch of money working in Washington. And so they've only gotten more swampy, right?
Yeah,
they've only cycled out and now cycled back in.
We also have to acknowledge the fact that 3 last sitting presidents bombed Syria without any congressional authorization. The last time Donald Trump did it, Jen Psaki tweeted, by the way, in 2017, quote, "Also, what is the legal authority for strikes? Assad is a brutal dictator, but Syria is a sovereign country." Gee, Jen, yes, of course he is. Joe Biden even tweeted that Trump was erratic, impulsive, and it's the last thing a commander-in-chief should do when, of course, Donald Trump bombed Syria because his daughter cried.
This is the end.
Ivanka Trump cried to him and told him to do it after the alleged chemical weapons attack, which there have been some very serious questions about and a lot of evidence countering all the information. But the big thing here we have to understand here is when Donald Trump bombed Syria, there was at least some kind of fake attempt to frame some kind of evidence. They tried. They did it very poorly. It was fact-checked to be wrong. But now there's no evidence. Where's the information? Where's the WMDs? Where's the justification for this that allowed the United States to do this? They usually put on a horse and pony show right before launching another strike. They didn't even do that this time. They didn't say there was a threat. They didn't show any evidence. They didn't highlight anything that could have justified this. We still don't know.
Let's jump to this thread from Drew on
this one guy?
this Democrat hypocrisy. But I want to start by saying this, ladies and gentlemen. This is the end. What we're seeing, the utter hypocrisy from Democrats and media pundits, cannot survive. Progressives are already tweeting, smack talking the Democratic establishment and the media establishment. Obviously not every single one, but many of them are saying we did not vote for this. Yeah. There's one Twitter account that's getting memed around like crazy because they were like, I'm deactivating my account. I did not realize Biden would do this. This is wrong. We didn't want war. He lied to us. I think about Barack Obama. He did the same thing, but there was no Twitter.
Right.
So what happens is we can see the hypocrisy. We can see Jen Psaki, press secretary, saying, under what authority is Donald Trump bombing Syria? What about now, when Joe Biden, 36 days in, does the same thing? We can see all of these Democrats, and it is stamped in our mind. So what happens now is the younger generation, they're going to see these tweets and be like, yeah, these people lied. That's it.
Right.
War is bad. We don't want this. I say this at the end. What I mean is that the establishment's stranglehold and ability to keep lying is weakening. I'm optimistic in this regard.
Yeah.
Because I've asked, how is it that so many people still fall for the mainstream media? They're probably older people watching TV. Younger people aren't. Now, many of these younger people probably fall for garbage emotional manipulation from a lot of these leftist grifters. But let's pull up this thread we have from the man himself, Drew Holden. And your tweet reads, "It seems not all pointless foreign wars are created equally. In the eyes of the Democrats, the media, and the chattering class, when Trump hit Syria, it was an outrage. But under Biden, Well, apparently things are different. Do you want to just read through some of the tweets? We'll show them and just break down for what you found.
I will. So I was going through it today, and I looked and I saw a lot of the. I was reminded very quickly of what happened in 2017 and 2018, where there was enormous criticism of Donald Trump hit Syria. I'm sure I was probably critical of it too. I saw it and I was like, I'm not sure I'm well about this one. Like
I criticized them. I'm getting these people tweeting at me. And they're like the haters, the tribalists. And they're like, are you going to, criticize Biden? No, you wouldn't criticize Trump. And I was like, I did. I criticized Trump on the Syria thing like every video. People complained about it. We get it, Tim. You're mad at Trump for firing Tomahawk missiles into Syria. And I'm like, yeah, all right, what am I going to, I'll complain about it. I supported Tulsi Gabbard for that reason.
Exactly.
But the tribalists are full of it.
I lost so many followers when I went after Trump for doing those moves. He's like, no, Trump's doing the right thing. I'm like, no. Yeah. And I remember calling him out aggressively and losing a large ton of followers. And I was like, I don't care. Goodbye. And they were like, you're like CNN. You have Trump derangement syndrome. I'm like, no, I have principles. Something a lot of people,
So what you discovered?
So what I found very quickly was that for whatever reason, all of the people who were incredibly critical in 2017 and 2018 were not critical. Or the best one, I think the one that I start off with. So usually the way I structure these is I'll hit the members of Congress first, and then the media, and then whomever, right? Blue checks. But the first one I had to start it with is a phenomenal side by side. It's Lawrence O'Donnell of MSNBC fame. When back in 2018 he had tweeted, "Dear news media, if you think Trump has constitutional authority to attack Syria, please say why. If you're not sure, please ask the question. Please stop using the phrase constitutional crisis, as it can only refer to firing people, not missiles." Right? A lot of concerns. Very concerned was Lawrence O'Donnell then. Lo and behold, last night, right after all of this goes down, he tweets out a link to his upcoming show that has Ben Rhodes, failed MFA, failed short story writer, turned policy wonk, apparently Ben Rhodes. And Lawrence O'Donnell tweets, "Ben Rhodes has been in the room when the president orders a proportional response." And he has him on, and they talk about why this specific attack made total sense, complete and total sense.
Well, you look, Drew, you just misunderstand. It has always been the position of the Democrats that bombing Syria is a good thing. Now, the issue isn't that Donald Trump was bombing Syria. The issue was that the man who ordered them happened to have been orange. You see, it makes sense now.
Yes,
now you
exactly.
Understand.
It's a night and day difference. And so I think it's interesting because a lot of Democratic politicians very much went with that sort of mentality and thread. My favorite, Nancy Pelosi, she tweeted, this is in 2017, so right after these first strikes, "Retweet if you agree," which is a horrible thing to put in a tweet.
Right?
just in terms of a little Twitter 101, please, for the love of God, don't do that. "Retweet if you agree that Congress has a responsibility to immediately debate President Trump's actions in Syria." Which is hysterical because back then, in 2017, she had no power to bring everyone back in and force everyone to have this conversation. She is now the Speaker of the House who could call back Congress tomorrow. She could force them to have this conversation. For whatever reason, no interest.
Huh, weird.
But perhaps, actually, I take that back. My favorite among elected officials has to be Barbara Lee. She used a couple of emojis. I think it's questionable. It's dubious. The first was the shouting emoji, all caps. "Trump doesn't have the authority to have troops in Syria, much less to protect oil." Apparently Biden does. And then, again, Twitter 101, please don't do this. Oh, no. "Producing foreign oil, clap hands is clap hands, not clap hands. Clap hands legitimate, clap hands military, clap hands mission, clap hands."
Just do the clap.
Stop endless war.
"Protecting foreign oil is not a legitimate military mission. Stop endless war."
Thanks, I hate it. What the heck?
No follow-up from her. For whatever reason. Maybe you guys didn't turn on the news. I don't know. Friday is often not a working day in Congress, so maybe she just hasn't heard.
Did you try to contact them? Be like, hey, do you have a point on this? Do you want to say
I
something
should.
here?
Well, so obviously I always tag these people whenever I tweet at them, and for whatever reason I haven't heard anything back on these ones.
How strange.
What is this a proportional response to?
There was a rocket strike on an Iraqi military base that killed an American contractor. So Joe Biden said, "Oh, I'm gonna blow them up."
Allegedly, that's what they say.
Right,
but again,
right.
we have to understand what they say is usually a lot different than what actually happens.
And more importantly, there were reports going around as soon as Biden got in that U.S. troop movements in Syria started escalating. And we saw Western news sources saying, "That's not true. It's a myth. This is totally normal." And then we saw, Middle Eastern sources saying the U.S. is running troops through Syria.
Yeah.
And then...
The New York Times, I believe, had the best take today. They had an article that was titled, "U.S. Airstrike in Syria Targets Iran-Backed Militias." In that article, it literally says, and I quote, Little is known about this group, including whether it is backed by Iran.
What?
Literally.
What?
That's literally what they said. So again, a lot of information is very sporadic. It's very hard to believe. A lot of anonymous government sources are coming out, and they're not putting their name behind this, but they're saying this was defensive.
Wow.
Anonymous government source. Yes.
Look at this, New York Times.
Yep.
Little is known about the group, including whether it is backed by Iran or related to organizations that used the facilities for the American airstrikes targeted on Thursday. Let's go right to the top.
Go to the title.
Yeah.
Yep,
U.S.
to the title.
airstrikes in Syria target Iran-backed
Yes.
militias.
That's-
They are lying. Clap, clap, clap. There, I'm doing
exactly.
it right?
Yeah,
And
well-
this is it, and it's already, and this is the thing. Like in a lot of ways, the media can speak these sorts of things into existence. The New York Times had another story with strikes in Syria. Biden confronts Iran's militant network.
Yes, I saw that.
Right? It's the same thing. It's if you repeat it. This is WMDs all over again. If you just repeat it over and over and over again, it becomes part of the conversation.
But another
it
big
becomes
thing,
real.
another big thing to realize here: the Iranian forces in Syria are the ones that are partly responsible for crushing ISIS, Al Qaeda, and Al Nusra, and other Sunni radical groups. The Iranians are basically Shiite groups that are fighting against the Sunnis. And if it wasn't for the Iranians and the Syrians working together, ISIS would still have a huge foothold inside of Syria. So by Biden and by Donald Trump attacking the Syrian government, they're attacking the people that are stopping ISIS. That's spreading radical jihadism and terrorism all over the West. That's another point here. Oddly, that point was forgotten by the mainstream media. They forgot to mention that one for some strange reason.
Under Trump, ISIS was crushed. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they lost a
under-
lot of their funding that was given to them by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton.
And then he blew up the main dude.
Yeah.
Well,
Got in
Russia
trouble for
also
that.
took a large part in that and exposed how a lot of the oil that was being, siphoned in by ISIS was actually traded to Turkey. Russia exposed how there was caravans working with the Turkish military along with ISIS, usually financing terrorism. Saudi Arabia, Israel also financed the Sunni, larger Wahhabist terrorist groups in there. Israel, by the way, was given advanced notice of this airstrike, and they released a statement that they're very pleased that this airstrike happened in that particular region. So there's a lot of different geopolitical things happening, but essentially I boil it down to the larger class of civilizations that's happening in the Middle East between the Sunnis and the Shiites. The Sunnis, the radical Islamists, are on the side of Israel.
So they're saying in the media over and over again, Iran.
Yeah.
Iran. Deep down they say, oh, we don't know for sure, but we're going to keep saying their name over and over again. So how long until we have war with Iran? They've been trying to do this. John Bolton said, what did John Bolton say? By this time next year, we will be celebrating in Tehran.
Yeah, he was wrong on his timeline, but we have to understand what Syria is. It's not about Syria. Syria is a larger proxy war between the United States, Russia, and also China in some ways. China has actually even sent some support to the Syrians. China has a very close relationship with the Iranians, so does Russia. So there's probably going to be another proxy war, just like we're seeing in Yemen, just like we're seeing in Syria, just like we've seen already play out in Libya. That's going to take place in Iran. But another big thing to really kind of calculate here and understand this larger web that the military-industrial complex paints to you is the fact that it was the Gulf War after 2001, in 2003, when the Gulf War was launched, that made Iran such a powerhouse in the Middle East region because it got rid of one of their chief competitors, Iraq, and their sphere of influence actually grew. They became more powerful because of the war in Iraq. So again, these neoconservatives literally created the boogeyman, and we could even talk about the CIA coup in the 50s and all this other stuff. But the fingerprints on the military-industrial complex, on the neoconservatives, is literally create the boogeyman, let's finance ISIS, let's make Iran more popular in the region, and let's go to war with them next. They're literally creating their own problems that they're now coming to you and saying, well, we have to, we can't give you that $2,000 check. We can't give you $15 minimum wage. We got this huge threat we got to fight that conveniently we made happen. And that's the big lie sold to the American people who just conveniently keep forgetting American history. I'm doing clapbacks.
That's
right
right.
there. I
That's
feel
a
ashamed
real
for doing
clapback.
that. But I'm just absolutely flabbergasted and so disappointed in people, especially in the mainstream media, that don't talk about these events in relevant timelines that actually give people a perspective to see what's happening here, because we are essentially paying for the destruction of this country by putting us in these quagmires. Meanwhile, China, they're having our lunch. They're probing our diplomats, and they're going to be doing a lot more with their global hegemony, which they're going to take over with their policies rather than our self-destructive, hurting policies that put us in debt and send our American troops into harm's way for what?
We actually have breaking news. We have exclusive.
Oh, yeah.
An exclusive photograph of Joe Biden actually making the switch between giving checks to the American people and dropping a bomb. And as you can see, he's wearing a leather jacket and a what is that?
Fedora.
Is that a
cool,
fedora?
Joe
I
Biden.
think so. Yeah, the Explorer hat.
And he's got to swap the $2,000 check for the missile.
Very
onto
Like an
the
Indiana
pedestal.
Jones thing.
Yeah,
Yep,
it's Indiana
yep.
Jones. That's what happened. You know what? You know what's really sad? I'm not mad. I'm sad. All of these Twitter accounts from these progressives who are like, but we thought Biden was the good guy.
Good.
Yeah.
But you thought Biden was the good guy. Oh, poor baby.
At least they're waking up.
Listen, I'm annoyed. I don't want to be mean. I think we're old enough to where we experienced the Obama years. We knew what Obama was going to do, or we knew what Obama did. We knew what Biden was going to do, and we kept saying it over and over again. And they're like, yeah, but Trump is a fascist. Okay, well, have more war, I guess. We're going to go to war with Russia. Let's see how that plays out. That's the next big
Trump
thing, right?
was a fascist, not
he
any more or
wasn't.
less than any other president. That's
not a fascist.
Well, this country's fascist.
No,
dude.
it isn't.
It's built on the backs of slaves and
Dude,
corporatocracy. That's fascism.
No.
It's suitable for us, but it's basically controlling the world through military coercion.
It's not fascism.
It's attempting to.
There's a lot going on in the world.
It's
There's
not
a lot
like
of
dictatorial fascism.
No, you're using fascism as a general term for
The corporations have been. Dude, Raytheon CEO is now our defense secretary. Is that what it is?
Yeah, that's crony capitalism.
It sure is.
But we're allowed to talk about it. It's not fascism.
Well, it's not
If
like
it was fascism,
it's not
they'd kick the door in,
totalitarian
they'd come
fascism.
in-
It's just like
No,
subversive
that
fascism.
fascism was the fact that they're not coming in here, kicking our door, and then probing us.
It's
shows
not-
that we're not. But if we
what do you call
allow
it,
these
corporatist?
people to keep doing these things, eventually it will be.
Yeah, it's
especially under Joe Biden.
It's an information war. You're right, and it doesn't have to happen in Iran. As long as we keep the communication going and keep people aware that we should not be going into Iran,
all right.
if these bombings are out of order, then I think we won't go in.
Well, another thing to kind of add here, just really quickly, is the fact that China's taking over the world through trade. We're taking it over through military blunders that indebt us forever, and that's not achieving anything. Yeah. Iraq wants us to leave. Syria wants us to leave. There was an Iraqi parliament that literally voted, please, the United States leave. Yeah. The United States decided not to do that and not to listen to a direct government order by the Iraqi government. And that's when we had these mysterious kind of rocket attacks that somehow are justifying our bigger involvement in there. I'm not putting on any theories out there. I'm just saying it was very convenient of a timeline that did happen.
You guys want to talk about authoritarianism? You want to talk about fascism? You want to talk about all that stuff? How about this story from CTV News? Man charged with assault at Montreal quarantine. Woman says she felt helpless. You don't get enough of understanding from this headline. Let me tell you what happened. A woman heard they were going to start instituting mandatory quarantines in Canada. She decided, I'll go back to Canada now before they do this. Took a COVID test. When she arrived, they said that was the wrong COVID test. So they took her to an undisclosed location, a hotel. They told her she wasn't allowed to tell anyone where she was, where the hotel was, or what was going on. And while she was there, a man sexually assaulted her. This is authoritarianism. This is what we have to worry about with these passports, with these lockdowns. Yeah. I watched a video. It was from Rebel News. I don't know a whole lot about it, but I saw this video on Twitter. And it's one of their reporters is walking down the street filming. Probably my assumption is he was filming like this is what the lockdown looks like. I'm out here showing the people. Right. And the cops gave him a fine and said, we don't care. They wrote him a ticket. Curfew for an adult man walking down an empty street. Now listen, I mentioned that that's not the worst of it. This story was sent to me, and at first I was like, what is this? A guy's being charged with sexual assault at Montreal quarantine hotel. Woman says she felt helpless. What is this? And she said she felt helpless at a hotel where she didn't expect to end up and where she was told she wasn't allowed to disclose her location. Quote, they didn't tell you where they were taking you, which is unacceptable. They gave us a set of rules. Can't post on social media. Can't disclose location. Federal health officials told CTV they're aware of the incident and taking it very seriously. The assault. That's what they care about. To the rest of these people, it's normal that this woman was flying back to her home and was apprehended by the authorities for breaking no crime, told she couldn't tell anyone what was going on, she couldn't report anything on social media, she couldn't give her location out. They brought her to an undisclosed location where she was assaulted. This is insane. They're literally taking people who have broken no laws, locking them up.
It's
and the problem with all of this too is it's the case in Canada, I'm sure. It's certainly the case in the United States. When you empower government to do things, right? We've seen this with the Patriot Act. We've seen this with lots and lots of things. When you allow governments to have lots and lots of power and lots of authority that is relatively unchecked against everyday life and against everyday civilians, they don't give them back quickly, right? The coronavirus cases are down like 77%, I think, in the last couple of weeks, right? And despite that, has your life changed? Has anyone's life changed?
To be fair, we're in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, we
so.
don't.
Yeah, that's a good point. You guys,
Yeah.
see, I live in
No,
DC,
the
and so
answer
it's
is no.
a whole
has it?
other universe. Nothing's changed. People are wearing 2 masks instead of 1 now. That's the only thing
Do you
that's
still have
changed.
all the razor wire and the?
Yes,
and the troops?
yeah. I went for a run the other day because I used to run, and I'd run up to the Cap because I live pretty close there. No, I mean it's as if we're living it's like East-West Germany. It's insane. But what happens when government gets these powers is that a bureaucracy that is empowered to make these sorts of decisions is always going to think they are going to make the right decision. They are not going to give you the power and authority back. And it has been, I think, to me, really incredible, despite the fact that the cases are falling and deaths are falling, life isn't actually returning to normal in all of the places where all of these lockdown restrictions have been put in place. And Canada obviously is a nightmarish example of this, but we're not that far from this kind of stuff.
No, we're not. And what is Fauci saying? Look, if you go get the vaccine, nothing's going to change.
Yeah.
You'll still have to wear 2 masks. You won't be able to go to the movies or go out to eat. So go get it anyway. And people are actually now
Who's gonna do
questioning
that?
why would they
Why
do
would
it?
you
Who's going to do that? And here's the thing, too. Like, listen, if all he would say, it blows my mind because all he would have to do, absent this power conversation, if he's someone who just wants to see people get the vaccine, you know what you do? You tell them how great the vaccine is.
Yep.
We have managed in the span of a very limited amount of time to come up with a revolutionary virus because of the power of American R&D and research that can
revolutionary vaccine.
that can stop and shut down a pandemic that has brought the world to its knees. Go get it. It's safe. We've tested it a gazillion times. Go get the vaccine.
Well, the long-term tests haven't been done.
Yeah, it takes a
and,
while.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. Another thing I wanted to bring up is before forcing the strictest lockdowns, the Canadian government also disarmed a large public of the Canadian citizenry, and we had politicians like Justin Trudeau that was in October of 2020 telling its citizenry, don't believe the conspiracy theories that there's going to be government quarantine camps. It's a conspiracy theory. Don't believe it. It's not going to happen. And here we are today when you enter Canada.
It's not a camp. It's a Sheraton hotel.
Oh, okay. That's
With,
better.
I have to
with,
imagine.
of course, corrupt security guards that do unspeakable
tell anyone
things
where
to
you're
you.
going.
And this is just it's like the frog boiling.
Yeah.
That's essentially what's happening here. And there's still a lot of legitimate questions surrounding the vaccine that I do believe should be asked, from my own personal opinion.
Yeah, you would think that with like a kind of like a propaganda campaign in favor of the vaccine, that people like Dr. Fauci would be super rah-rah about it. I don't
But Trump
understand
did it.
why he's not.
Trump did it, and they don't like
That's
Trump.
it. That's bottom
I mean,
line.
look, we mentioned this before. All these stories were coming out saying like, oh, boogeyman vaccine, a doctor took a vaccine and 2 weeks later was dead.
Yeah.
And then I read the stories like, wow, what happened? And it was like, he had a stroke. And I'm like,
Oh.
2 weeks later, he had a stroke. Okay, come on. I'm concerned about the speediness with which this vaccine was put out there. But I'm worried that there are the same nasty, unethical journalists who are like, it's Trump's vaccine, though.
Yeah.
Let's rag on it. Let's. I mean, and the politicians certainly like the power. So I wonder why it is Fauci is saying these things.
Maybe he's being honest. Maybe it really isn't that effectual, or he doesn't know.
Well, there's been
maybe they did it because they were scared and people needed hope. So the vaccine is worthless. Is that what Fauci is saying?
Well, again, this is rushed. This is still experimental, and there have been some findings saying that if you do get the vaccine, you could still spread the sickness. There's been studies saying that. There's been experts saying that. I think even you have to look this up. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think even Fauci said this himself. So when we're looking at, I don't think this is Trump's vaccine. This is Pfizer's vaccine. This is Moderna's vaccine. This is Johnson & Johnson's vaccine.
And it was Operation Warp Speed that Trump streamlined the process to ramp everything through really, really quickly and provide massive funding for all this and guaranteed contracts.
Sure. But when people look at it now, they don't see Trump. That's the point that I'm making here. Yes, Trump played a key initiative in pushing this vaccine, but the questions about its efficacy and its safety, those still are kind of questions that are being asked, and we'll see.
Yeah, and Dr. Fauci is the one who's basically undermining confidence in it.
Yeah.
And that to me is insane.
Yeah,
It's
and
absolutely
like
insane.
to me again, like at the risk of being a little bit black helicopters on this stuff, I think part of it is if he were to go out and say that it is fully effective and fully safe and everyone should get out and do it, then people would probably stop looking to the CDC for advice, right? Like if you look at all of the different things that the CDC recommends you do, most of us ignore them on a day-to-day basis, right? How many people truly go and they're like, well, I really like the taste of medium rare steak, but the CDC says you have to cook it to at least medium. No one. People don't do that.
Do they really say that?
Yes, that's one of the
Monsters.
recommendations.
What?
And I think
Monsters.
it's like 1 or 2 drinks is the maximum. Like they have all of the they have a litany of very, very silly rules that no one actually follows.
This is for
And I
COVID?
think for anything.
They're
for
telling
anything.
people to ruin their steaks.
Yes,
know, right?
exactly.
Who do we have to impeach?
Travesty.
Who do we impeach?
Thank you.
I refuse.
Thank
The
you. But here's the
CDC.
thing. Right now, people are. It's in a lot of ways, it's like the weathermen when they predict storms. Right. As long as they keep telling you that a storm is coming, you're gonna be glued. You're gonna pay attention. I'm gonna go to the Weather Channel and see if we're gonna get 6 inches or 8 inches or 12 inches, or is it gonna be worse? Is it gonna be nothing? But if you keep saying something bad and scary is coming around the corner, people will keep tuning in.
I mean, look,
and in his case, people will keep empowering him and the rest of the agents of the state to be able to say, "Oh, sorry, you can't do the things we don't like you
It's
doing."
an addiction.
Yeah.
You've got people who have power, and they've found a way to use government to gain more power, be it money, shutting down all our competition and allowing only us to remain open. We're not going to oppose that. And so unless there is a principled individual to snap their fingers and say, stop this, which there isn't,
Right.
why would anyone give this up? Now, listen, the people running the big box stores and the big, massive, online stores who are allowed to stay open and are making all this money and making billions and billions of dollars, they're going to be like, well, look, it's not us, it's the pandemic, so we're not going to get involved.
I think Elon was pretty good about being like, this thing's ridiculous. I'm not shutting my factory down. I'm leaving California. Come with me if you want.
But he needs people driving their cars.
Yeah.
So I'm not trying to impugn the honor of Elon, but if people are staying home, they're not buying cars, they're not driving cars.
Good point.
So it's good for Tesla and it's good for their bottom line when people are out and about. You look at Amazon, it's the inverse.
Yeah.
They need you in your home waiting for that delivery. So why would they resist in any capacity? These politicians are also thinking, I got a guaranteed salary and everyone is sitting there terrified and will do whatever I say. Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
If people lose their livelihoods, who's going to buy Teslas? So that's another thing to really consider here. As well as, on the other hand, we did had a John Hopkins doctor recently come out in the Wall Street Journal op-ed and write that COVID's going to be over by April.
Yeah.
We had the Independent reporting that there has been no influenza cases in the United Kingdom all year. There also has been a huge influenza drop in the United States. And according to English health officials and the Deputy Chief Medical Officer of the United Kingdom, he is even saying, as of 2 days ago, that face masks may not even be necessary by the summer. So this is also happening as well as the same time as we're discussing
I just
Dr.
wanna
Fauci's, darker predictions and Dr. Fauci's opposite viewpoint of what all these other medical professionals are saying in other countries.
Did you just say there was no influenza in the United Kingdom?
Yes, there
Zero.
was no according to the British, the UK health records, there was 0 cases of influenza of flu in the United Kingdom this year, 2021.
Let's talk about this. Not a single case of flu detected by Public Health England this year as COVID restrictions suppress virus. Experts say decline in infections could justify continued use of hand sanitizer and masks following coronavirus pandemic. That's really amazing that COVID was skyrocketing while the flu was disappearing.
Yeah, you trying to fact check me there, Ian?
I want to just point this out.
Good, I
that
like that. I like
It's
that. We should be
possible
fact checking.
that influenza is present, but they're not classifying it as an influenza infection. Instead, they're saying it's a COVID infection.
Well, we don't know that.
No, we
don't
don't.
know
I would
that
like
for
to investigate
sure.
that. I would
but it does raise an important question. Similar numbers have gone down in the United States. So there's another article that I was just reading a couple of days ago about influenza almost totally wiped out in the United States. There still have been some documented cases. Now again, we don't have the evidence. It's a stretch to go there, but some people are going there. But again, this is something to think about. This is something to add to our calculations when we're looking at the sphere of our current modern
It's simple.
day.
The flu, when people were staying home, couldn't spread, but COVID could.
But it wouldn't mean that you wouldn't
it could.
get it. Like, it would slow the spread, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
It's interesting. What I had heard in terms of influenza coming to the United States is that there's essentially, and listen, someone's got to fact check me on this, but I think the argument is that influenza, the annual influenza, tends to come from Central and South America.
Yep.
And that it cultivates there for whatever reason, right? And don't forget, the seasonal flu we get now is just a dilapidated version of the 1918 Spanish flu, and it never quite went away, and that's kind of how they assume the coronavirus is going to be too, right? And so every year we get like a slight variance on a new strain, and for whatever reason, my understanding is that I don't know where it starts, but it tends to come to the United States from Central and South America. Since there's a lot less tourism, there's a lot less immigration. I think the thinking is that it hasn't actually kept with its normal course.
So you're saying the migrant caravans are putting us at risk, and we have to lock the borders down?
There's one argument, right?
I'm only half kidding. I mean, that's true too. Like if the flu is really coming from a lot of these people, then border security would help prevent a lot of these diseases.
I do think I think it's mostly tourists, though. I think is how it tends to work. But also, interesting point you made earlier is about this Wall Street Journal op-ed, which I read the other day and I found fascinating. And basically, the crux of his argument is we're not taking into account how many people already have a natural resistance to the vaccine because there have been so many asymptomatic cases. I think his estimates are that there have been between 5 and 6 times as many people who have been infected by coronavirus than our numbers have. Not for any malicious reason, but just because a lot of people were asymptomatic, had it, never got tested, never even thought to get tested.
Never even knew they had it.
Yeah, of course, and never knew that they had it. And so when we talk about herd immunity, one of the biggest factors is that in the case of this op-ed, the argument is that one of the biggest things we're not talking about is how many people have natural immunity. And so if instead of 1 million or a couple of million, it's a lot higher than that, then you don't actually have to vaccinate as many people until you get to a point where the numbers continue to fall and continue to fall to a point where they're almost vanishing.
Yeah. Most of them, by the way, have healthy immune systems, have good vitamin D levels. Again, something that we should be talking about more. There was also another UK study that talked about how the vaccine won't eliminate the virus risk. I think it was also in the Wall Street Journal that reported this as well, which was kind of interesting. Vaccine won't eliminate virus risk, I think was the title. I don't know if you're able to find it or pull it up there. But again, there's so many different things being thrown at us that we have to understand all of this is extremely complex. A lot of the experts contradict themselves. A lot of the mainstream media reports sensationalize it, make it as hyperbolic, make it as fearful as they can for you. And a lot of the real legitimate things about your health, your immune system, sleep, stress, proper diet, exercise, vitamin D, sun, a lot of that gets missed. Again, not a medical doctor, not a medical professional, not telling you how to live your life, not telling you what to do, but I'm just saying that this whole conversation around this from the very beginning has been toxic, has been polluted, and has been politicized so that people take advantage of it for their own personal benefit. And sadly, our politicians did that to us.
Well, let's talk about solutions.
Yeah.
What does a regular person do? Well, the next story we have is from Washington Times. 5 Oregon counties to vote on leaving the state and escaping to Greater Idaho.
Understandable.
And they actually have 2 phases. The first phase is to get these 5 counties, which would turn Idaho into a coastal state. It would give them a port.
Wow.
No joke.
Yeah.
No way.
Idaho would reach the Pacific.
I love it.
They also have phase 2, which would rope in Northern California into Greater Idaho. It would not create a new state, and this is their plan. So you have all these counties in Oregon which are conservative. These counties are saying the politicians in Portland,
it's not
in
just
Oregon,
Portland.
They're all Democrats. Right, it's all the Democrat areas.
Right.
They dominate the state politics, and they're giving COVID relief to their constituents and ignoring the rural areas. The rural areas say, well, we got more in common with Idaho. How about the Idaho border move and encompass us?
I like it.
I do
love
too.
it.
Sounds great.
Listen, one of the challenges they say is, have you guys heard of the state of Jefferson?
Yes.
Northern California, same thing. They think they should break off and form a 51st state called Jefferson because they have nothing in common with the rest of the state and the big cities, and they do not get represented. Right. The problem is creating a new state. California is going to have to sign off on giving up this territory. The U.S. will have to have like a Article 5 convention or whatever it's called, where like all the states come together and then vote for amendments, and that would create the new state. The same thing is true for Greater Idaho, but it would not change the amount of senators. So there should still be the same amount of congressmen and women, and there should be the same amount of senators, and all it would do is move some borders around, which they say does happen. I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan.
And give people sovereignty away from, of course, the big socialist, communistic, very far leftist governments.
And super populated, right? I think one of the big problems with Northern California is that it's more sparsely populated, it's more rural, and so not only are they going to be ignored in terms of their political disposition, like they just don't have the political capital to be able to get the people who are making the decisions to care about them. Right? And with Greater Idaho, obviously that wouldn't be the case. You do have so much surely so much more shared value and so much more shared interest. I guess it would change the House of Representatives for each of those states, presumably, if enough people shifted and moved. But you're right, it wouldn't change the number of senators, and it probably, like, California will lose maybe one congressional district at most. And so I don't know. This sounds
I think
wonderful.
this is such a great idea to give a voice to some of the more rural populations. I don't know about you guys, but I'm super tired of the big cities having all of the concentrated power. You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like
And so
the
this
rural
would
people need a voice.
So the interesting thing is that there was a study that came out recently that said even in red states, the cities are blue.
Yes.
Yeah, right.
The issue is that in these blue states, the cities are disproportionate in population size to the rest of the state. In the red states, it's inverted. So it'll be interesting to see all of a sudden these counties that have zero representation, all of a sudden feel represented.
That's great.
I think it's a great idea because what's the alternative?
Yeah,
Exactly.
If people feel like the government does not represent them, what do?
Yeah.
This country was founded based on that fact.
Peacefully. It's the great thing about being in a democracy like this, too, or a representative democracy, is that you can alter your borders peacefully.
Yeah.
Now, here's the weird thing. We've got Weld County, Colorado, right?
Yes.
They want to be a part of Wyoming for the same reason.
Yeah.
You got the state of Jefferson. Even if the people who live there say, we don't want to be a part of this place anymore, and we're the ones who live there, we're the people who run this county, the state still has to vote on whether you're allowed to leave.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me. I don't think that should be the
Why
way
would
it
a
is.
state let you leave?
Yeah,
Yeah,
why would they
Yeah.
be like, we willfully give up people who are enslaved to us?
Taxpayers,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
These are taxpayers who have no representation,
Yeah.
who are funneling money to their salaries, and of course they're not going to let their serfs leave.
Yeah,
Therein
exactly.
lies the problem. What do those people end up doing? They get
Yeah.
angry. You'll see protests. We've got to have representation.
And it would be interesting to see if that, like, just as a phenomena catches on, right? Forget like those individual places for a second. If individual communities can say, "Hey, look, we are 100 feet away from another state that shares our values, and we are existing within a state that doesn't. What are the sorts of things we can do and animate to start to move and change those things?" I think that could be a really, really fascinating experiment in federalism to see how that plays out at all across the country.
Look at how the Democrats want to make Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. states so they can get 4 more senators
Yes.
and then have a uniparty, a single party rule controlling the country. Now, to be fair, the Republican Party establishment, Democratic Party establishment, essentially the same things. But what's happening now is the Democrats don't even want to bother with whatever, pseudo arrangement they had in the first place. And they're like, hey, we'll make 2 more states and then we'll never lose ever again.
Right.
They would tell you, oh, Jefferson can't become a state. That's ridiculous. Why? It would create 2 new Republican senators. Or maybe not. I'm not confident what's going to happen to the Republican Party. I'm seeing all of these progressives saying, like, Joe Biden bombed Syria instead of giving us checks.
Yeah.
Good luck in the midterms. And I'm like, they don't need it. The Republican Party is split and is fractured.
Right.
People, they want Trump. They want people who support Trump. They do not want the crony establishment. So, look, we've had people on this show who have mentioned the idea of peaceful divorce.
Yeah.
I think Luke's mentioned peaceful divorce.
The first time I came on the show, I'm like, hey, don't make fun of me, but I think memes and peaceful divorce are going to be the only solution that are going to cause the least amount of harm on people. So if you want to reduce harm, you're going to have to work out a solution where people peacefully move away from each other and decide to live next to each other and not aggress against each other.
Yeah.
Well, without a peaceful divorce, like, how do we get to that point, right?
Right.
And so I think we're seeing recall efforts. We're seeing a lot of people go after the governors and complain about them. But we always try to vote out incumbents, and it doesn't change things for a lot of people. That's why so many people who never voted before voted for Trump.
Right.
Because they're thinking, what's the point? It's not going to change anything going back and forth. Well, then someone comes along and says, I got an idea. How about we move this town to a different state? Hey, that sounds pretty good. So 5 counties are going to be voting on this in May. Apparently, in November, several counties voted to do it already. Not that I think it will really happen, but they're saying, we want this.
Right.
All right. The states and the federal government say, no, you can't do it. Well, these people are, what happens? Because I talked about this before. When, Joe Biden or Fauci says, here's our new, COVID guidance, and this town says, we've had it.
Yeah.
No. And they set up their own checkpoints. They said their police say we won't enforce this. Already, we're hearing in many jurisdictions, the sheriffs are saying they're not going to enforce any of this stuff. What happens then when these people feel like, without representation, I have no confidence in the system anyway? In the state of Jefferson, I'll do air quotes, there are people who have flags for the state of Jefferson. They want it. They demand it. I guess in the end, what we're seeing here is this will start heating up. and then eventually you'll get to the point where when this fails, people say peaceful divorce.
Yeah.
I mean, the Mr. Potato Head thing was enough to get Mark Dice to say, time for Republican states to secede from the
okay.
from
A
the
little
union.
hyperbolic. But,
I know, it's hilarious,
He must
though. It's
have
great.
really loved Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah, truly.
So
What's the plan with Mr. Potato Head now? Not to diverge too far away. Are they just going to
you
call him
missed,
Potato
no,
Head?
no, you just made a very big mistake.
Oh boy.
You called the Potato
Potato
Head
Head.
Mr.
Potato.
It is now just Potato
Senor
Head.
Potato Head? No, now it is down to
No,
just
no,
Potato Head.
no.
Or Potato
So
Head. Who knows?
before
Yes.
it was
I don't know what
Mr.
it
and
is.
Mrs. Potato Head.
It's genderless.
And now they're just both called Potato Head?
Yeah.
Are they
It
both
was-
genderless, or is it just
They're both
formally?
the
I
same
don't wanna-
potato, but Mr. Potato Head comes
Don't wanna
with like
miss it,
eyelashes and big lips.
Yeah.
And the Mr. Potato Head comes with the mustache.
Oh, but it's just all going to be packaged as Potato Head now.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like, so
Interesting.
now you get, I guess, one with everything in it.
Okay.
That's a great
Sounds
question.
like they might like
That would've
now
been an
now
error.
now they don't have to make different color boxes
Yeah.
with different designs. So they'll save some money on design and box production.
Yeah.
But then it sounds like they're going to be selling less products.
Yeah,
'cause
half
what,
as
what,
much product.
What if you did like Mr. Potato Head, Mrs. Potato Head Kids?
Yeah, we
Aunt
had both.
Potato Head.
You have
to do
Grandpa Potato Head.
Yeah.
Doggy
You can't do it
potato
now.
head?
You could have. I mean, you could
Potato
have
dog?
a non-gendered potato head.
You,
I
you
only
could do
heard about-
BLM Potato Head. You could
Yeah.
do Antifa
Add it in,
Potato Head.
yeah.
You could,
Wait,
that's
wait,
a
wait,
lot
wait,
of
wait,
options
wait.
there.
Hold on. We're giving away really good ideas.
And I'm telling you,
us.
I think what this all was. But as soon as I saw it, at first I was like, "Well, this is dumb." And then my second thought was, "Oh no, there was some really creative intern who
Yep.
said I can get Potato Head trending." And his
Yeah.
bosses were like, "Yeah, okay, yeah, Potato Head. Hello, this is Hasbro. We've had Potato Head for a gajillion years." He's like, "Listen, follow me here. Mr. Potato Head, no gender. Do away with it. Watch what
Progressive.
happens. Boom.
Yes.
Now we're
But
talking
you know what the
about
worst
it.
part was? When he was he was at pitch meeting where the intern was pointing to like his slides, and like as he's pitching the no gender Mr. Potato Head, the other intern was walking in holding the iPad with potato dick and potato boobs. And, he was like, and then he overhears him saying it, and he like
Oh, sadly.
he looks down and he
Swipes right.
mopes away like, aw, I was gonna
see it.
make mature potato
Yeah,
head.
exactly.
I know, right?
Adult
That's
potato
what
Yes,
head.
3D
exactly,
printers are
exactly,
for. You
yeah.
sell the CAD
Anyway,
files.
so we were
Anyway.
talking about seceding from the states,
Which is a great idea.
and
Well,
states leaving the union.
I like the idea
And
of making new
Idaho
states.
potatoes. I mean,
oh
hello,
yeah, there you
like,
go. Spuds.
this is
Yep.
all connected.
That's right,
if
it
you
is.
really squint hard
It's a
enough.
simulation.
So
It's a simulation.
we've
That's
been-
it. I'm done.
We've been making states since 1776, right? And so why don't we just keep making them?
Well, making states is hard because
True.
the
Yeah.
political process around it is tortured, right? Forever there will always be a Democratic push to make Washington D.C. a state.
Which
The
is
argument
insane.
will narrowly be we should do the implicit argument is we should do this because we need to enfranchise everyone because they want 2 senators. Republicans will make the opposite point and say, hey, this doesn't actually make sense in the Constitution, but fundamentally, don't get me wrong, from a uni-party perspective, if it would have been 2 Republicans who got elected senators,
Be for
I
it.
guarantee you the Republican
Yep.
Party
Yep.
would find a really compelling reason why we've been misreading the Constitution.
And the Democrats would be saying the Constitution
and they would be
says.
saying the opposite thing. And so
But it
you'll
is
always
true.
see that back and forth in that
The-
fight about new states.
The important reason we have D.C. is not a state is so that the federal government exists outside of any state's jurisdiction. We have to have that. Puerto Rico, I actually think actually makes sense to be a state.
Yeah, me too.
sure.
But and like but imagine if you could look at God, I don't know what you would call it between was it Jefferson state, the state of
State of
Jefferson.
Jefferson.
If you could have the state of Jefferson and then part of Oregon and say, all right, here. This has like if you could cut out those areas and make them have approximately the population of Puerto Rico and say, all right, guys, 1 for 1, we're doing it.
Yeah. That could
Yeah,
work.
I think that'd
can
be
see
great.
that.
I don't think the Dems would probably not go for it only because they would lose some little bit of representation and all of
power.
that. And
Yeah.
and California obviously drives so much of the
I
modern
don't-
Democratic
I don't-
Party, but
I don't understand the logic behind I'm not being represented in this state, so we are going to self-govern, and them saying, but we can say no.
Yeah.
How does that make sense? The Constitution is literally, a government of, by, and for the people. It is the duty of the people, blah, 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 all that stuff. So what's the justification now for the U.S.? They're not leaving the country. They're not leaving the Union.
Right.
Greater Idaho is crafted very politically in a very smart way to say
Oh, yeah.
it won't change the amount of states. It
Yeah,
will give
right.
Idaho more representation, more congressional representation. Actually, no, I don't think it would actually change the makeup of Congress because the jurisdictions for Congress are not are going to be based on like the sort of county level, right?
Well, so they'll be based on the 20. It's interesting in terms of when it
Districts.
happens. It'll come down to the 2020 census. But no, it's a population question. And so it depends on how many people Greater Idaho adds to current Idaho.
Well, so the area of Oregon that is going to break off and join Idaho already has a Republican representative, these districts.
oh, good point.
So they would join Idaho. It wouldn't change.
Yeah.
It would just mean that state law would benefit them. They'd be able to have guns. They would get their COVID relief when they need it. They would be respected and represented. Is very smart what they're proposing.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think it's a huge problem that Oregon can be like, nah. Well, you're not representing their people. If they come to the federal government and say, we object and we demand the right to do this, I think the federal government should say, agreed.
Yeah, I think so too.
If Idaho agrees, Idaho is the only one who has to agree to this. The counties have to agree, and Idaho has to agree. Oregon should have no say in the matter.
Look, Tim, there's too much common sense for the government to do this.
Yeah.
So if it was ridiculous, stupid, and counterintuitive, they would have their
They'd be
stamp
all
on it
over
right
it.
away.
Yeah, exactly.
But this makes a lot of sense. This makes perfect sense. If we lived in a just society where we had government that actually served its people,
In a perfect
it would happen.
world.
But again, we have to also understand that the government of California, the government of Oregon, a lot of these bureaucrats view their citizens as tax cattle and tax slaves. So they're not going to want to give up people who they're going to be able to tax and take a huge amount of money for that they don't have to do anything for. Right. So the initiative of the government that's already going bankrupt, especially in California, that can't balance a budget, that has so many wasteful spending bills and initiatives and programs that are just absolutely ridiculous. They're not going to give away their tax slaves. They want them. Just like in ancient days in the Roman Empire, they saw people as money. And then people were converted into slaves. That's the same thing that's essentially is happening
Serfdom.
here. Yeah.
This is like a neo-feudalist kind of thing.
Yeah.
It is, yeah.
These people with no representation are paying taxes, and that is money the state will not give up. Now, here's the funny thing. When the greater Idaho people said COVID relief went to the Democrat constituents and not us, that's your money.
Yeah.
That's the money from the conservatives who paid the taxes and then saw that tax revenue from the federal government and from the state level go to their political rivals and was not fairly allocated.
So would it have to be that Idaho buys the territory from the other states?
No.
As like reparation for the loss?
No,
No,
I think it should literally just be, we live here.
Yeah,
We
it's our
voted.
land.
The county says, the council members, whatever represents this county, we are now Idaho.
But California could be like, well, we spent a lot of California citizens' taxes to make those cities what they are, so you owe us something before you leave.
That's something that would need to be adjudicated, but that's the problem. What the people in Greater Idaho are saying is that they're not getting that. They're not getting the resources. And so the argument from someone in like Portland was like, well, you're going to have to consider all the taxes you've got to pay. And they're like, the taxes would go down.
Yeah.
We would pay less in taxes to Idaho, and you're not giving us the resources. So the problem is, the grievance they have is, you're not investing in us. You're not fixing our infrastructure or giving us the COVID relief we've asked for. You're giving it to your people who are going to vote for you to maintain their power. That is going to lead to conflict and crisis. When one side is getting too little and one side is getting too much, it's the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
So what makes sense? If I live here, I should be able to be like, we vote. There we go. The land is this county. Idaho, what do you say? Then Idaho would have to vote.
Right.
And if Idaho says yes, done.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think in so many ways too, that would help get around concerns of if you have these places that aren't paying much in taxes, that aren't super valuable, you would at least have to have buy-in from the places they're going to say, yeah, they're not just taking them in as, you know, as the backstraggler or what have you. These are just people who we want to break bread with. And so we are going to do what we need to legally empower them to be citizens like us.
Do you know what happens if you do not respect the people? You get this story right here from The Independent. Lady Gaga, dog napping. FBI investigating political motives. Singer's dog walker was shot and her 2 French bulldogs were stolen. They're essentially saying, check this out, the FBI is reportedly investigating if there were political motives behind the dog napping of Lady Gaga's bulldogs after she sang at President Joe Biden's inauguration last month. The pop superstar is offering $500,000 for the return of her French bulldogs, Koji and Gustav, who were stolen at gunpoint. Not at gunpoint, at gunshot. Mm-hmm. But Luke, you see, a lot of people might say, what political motives? You mentioned something earlier about this.
Yeah, I remember seeing some kind of form of entertainment where this was a plot line of going against the bourgeoisie and stealing the rich people's dogs as form of like a cultural warfare. I don't remember exactly what. I couldn't pinpoint it when we were talking before the show. That's why I didn't bring it up now. But you know, I think there might be a bigger political motive potentially here. I think it also might be motivated by crime that has been spiking in many big cities that is going to go dramatically up as, of course, our economic woes continue.
Well, they're saying the FBI thinks there may be a political motive, right?
Yeah.
But I wonder, in Los Angeles, is that MAGA country?
Oh, no.
I do not believe it is.
Huh.
So could it be some fringe leftists saying "eat the rich." I think these people knew who the dogs belonged to.
I mean, you got to assume that they did, right? Like the other thing too is they didn't just take the dogs; they shot the guy who had the dogs, and then they took the dogs. So you got to assume. I mean, my hunch is it's either for ransom or like think about where she was.
I'm saying this. My initial assumption is this is crazy for the FBI to insinuate political motives. That's nuts. Okay, it was probably some guys who were like, "Yo, it's Lady Gaga's dogs. Shoot that guy. Take his dogs." But if the FBI has reason to believe it was politically motivated, I don't see it as being right wing. First of all,
definitely not.
Right-wingers going around shooting people and stealing dogs does not make sense to me.
No, it would have to be like if there's anyone who's going to do that, and I think it fits. The reason we all jumped onto it earlier is it fits the class war narrative, I think, in the Democratic Party of if it's anything, it's probably something from like, I don't know, a communist revolution that happened in China or in Russia where that's what they did to the wealthy. And that, like, as a form of punishment, they took the items that they had that conveyed some sort of class status, right? It's no different than stealing someone's Range Rover today. And so it's like that to me, if there is any political intonation, it has to be that.
Yeah, I'd be curious at who in the FBI is saying that they were kind of investigating this. I'd be really curious what they were thinking the motivation was, because you're right, there's no chance that this is MAGA country because this is LA. That ain't MAGA country. It's even less so than it was in Chicago when Jussie Smollett was dealing with it. Oh, poor man. But these dogs are very expensive, and I feel like everybody knows that. And I think that this is probably just crime, honestly. And I guess this has been kind of increasing. So I don't know.
I mean, they're like $2,000. I mean, to kill
they
someone to try to.
Is that really all that they're
on
worth?
average?
Yeah,
on average.
I
guess
so I don't know. There's
bulldogs.
special
Ransom.
breeds.
They're holding them for ransom, right?
But even, I mean, in this special technological surveillance Big Brother state, I don't think people would do ransom because they would get caught right away. With so much metadata. I mean, Facebook knows everything about you.
This is why the political thing I'm questioning.
Yeah.
Look. Like, I would not entertain this normally, but the FBI is investigating a political motive over this, and they're saying it's because she's saying it Biden's inauguration. But that's kind of like the far left was planning on protesting Hillary Clinton's inauguration as well back in 2016, and then it turned into a Trump protest. They don't like Joe Biden. And like Luke said, what ransom are you going to be able to get from stealing Lady Gaga's dogs? Okay, maybe they didn't know it was Lady Gaga's dogs. Maybe they saw a guy with dogs and said, yo, but I don't believe that because these dogs are extremely valuable.
Yeah.
They likely knew where the dogs came from. They likely knew what kind of dogs they were. They had to have known it was Lady Gaga's. And if that's the case, ransom would never have worked. So were they hoping to then get the reward later from Lady Gaga or sell them because they're worth a couple grand? I don't know. But the FBI says political motive, and I don't look to a bunch of MAGA guys, maybe with
definitely not.
with some bleach and some
Right,
rope, tracking down this guy.
Yeah, and there's more expensive things to steal, right? Like, like if you were in downtown LA, you got to assume there's probably like cars, watches, right? Like things that you don't have to hold for ransom, you can just resell. It's fascinating.
I also do think it's like absurd to think that some like Antifa people were like, eat the rich, and then they shot this guy and stole the dogs.
That's
you know what I mean?
Too, yeah.
So
yeah.
Is the FBI just reaching here?
Imagine being the FBI person. imagine like you're an agent and this comes across your case and you're like, I'm sorry, Lady Gaga's dogs? This is what I have to do today?
Yeah.
No. There's an FBI agent and he's sitting in his desk and he's like super ripped and his like his suit's about to rip, because his muscles are so big. And then they come and they're like, Agent Johnson, it's Lady Gaga. And he goes, don't tell me her dogs. And he's like, I'm on it. And then it plays the theme song, The Dog Bounty Hunter.
Yeah, the dog bounty hunter. I love it.
Or it could be just two dumbasses that just randomly decided to be
Also
violent because
possible.
there's a bunch of violent dumbasses, mainly in big cities. And then the FBI is like, I can't fix this. I can't solve this. Let's just blame politics like we do everything else.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they always do that.
It's like, might as well be, right?
Yeah.
Then they announced that they found a length of rope tied off in the back of Lady
Bottle of
Gaga's
bleach,
car, and they're like, oh, yeah.
It's interesting. A Subway bag, I think, was also recently discovered nearby.
Wow, that's going to be the meme forever for all these hoaxes, having
I
a
hope
Subway
so.
sandwich.
I mean, it's like it has to be. It also just like I'm reminded of what happened often because it is just so fundamentally ridiculous, and people ran with it. Remember, I think she deleted the tweet, but Kamala Harris tweeted. She's like, I've never known someone as honest and as brave as Jussie Smollett.
These people are. They just.
Cringe.
It's like I imagine Kamala Harris is sitting there, and you're like, Miss Harris, what's your first name? And she goes, Harry. I can't tell the truth. I have to lie compulsively. You're like, tell me just something simple fact, and she tries really hard. John.
Yeah.
Because it has to be a lie out of her mouth.
I wonder
Every
if
single one of these people.
because Gaga performed at Biden's thing that Joe and Kamala know her, and they think that the FBI will get more funding if they say that it might be politically motivated.
Ian just solved it.
Interesting.
The two people who stole the dogs was Joe and Kamala.
That's what I'm getting at.
I knew it.
And it
Yeah,
was
it's totally
Joe with
what
the
I'm
gun.
going
He's
for,
like,
yeah.
Come on, man, give me the dog.
Will they get more internal funding if it's a political crime?
No, I don't think
know.
so.
I think of the Kamala Harris meme where she's like looking on the phone and looking down, and everyone's saying she's on the phone with Joe and what she's saying to him, and I think of her going like, Joe, they found the dogs, Joe. It's they know that it's us. The gig is up.
No, but you did bring up a good point
Solved
in that they just attach white supremacy to everything.
Yep.
You know, so if there's like a problem, so like, you know, a dog got kidnapped and the FBI can't figure it out, white supremacy?
Like
and then the left
13
goes, that explains it. And they go, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah,
13
exactly.
FBI agents for that fake news.
Fake news.
Yeah.
Fake news.
That's
Throw the FBI on
right.
it.
That's
Uh-huh.
right.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get to the point where, like, you know, someone's car breaks down, and then like he brings it to the shop, and the guy looks at it and goes, "White supremacy,"
Yes.
and then the guy goes, "Oh,
Snap.
can you fix it?" Well, I'll do my best. Let me see if I can get the ADL on the phone. Bring him out here. It'll just be an excuse for like anything that goes wrong, right? So like the power will go out, and then people will be like, "We want to know where the power is out," and the mayor will be like, "Ladies and gentlemen,
Hate crime.
white supremacy."
Just snow.
That's it. And they'll be like, what? And they'll be like, that's what happened. And they'll go, help us, please.
Yeah.
Help us. Oh, heavens. That's big cities, to be honest. 'Cause
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I'm pretty sure this is what they're doing in, was it LA or another city? There's been a spike, a purported spike. I don't know if the numbers are actually pretty solid, but there's been a purported strike in anti-Asian American violence.
And there's
And I
two-
saw someone blame, they were like, well, naturally, it's white supremacy.
Well, no,
It's like,
they protested for this.
Yes,
in
right.
New York City, they did a march against white nationalism. And the suspect who attacked this Asian guy was black.
Not white.
yeah.
And then in San Francisco, they did the same thing.
Yep.
It was a suspect was black, and they were like, but it's white supremacy.
Right.
Somehow.
That's what's driving this.
Dude,
In New
it is-
York with the attacks on the Hasidic Jews all the time. It's the same thing. It's like this is white supremacy run rampant again.
Wow, these people are insane. That's one of the reasons I don't want to be in these cities anymore. But look, I'm not. We mentioned it periodically throughout the show, but like this is just falling apart. When you have very clearly a black man attack an Asian man, my response is I don't care about the race.
Yeah.
It was a guy who committed a crime. But then when all of these people are like white supremacy was the problem, and they go march, I'm like, yo, it's listen, it's class, it's poverty, it's education. Like we need to help these areas not scream up. Like I'll tell you this, I'll simplify this. Okay, I'll just slow down. If we see crime, regardless of race, and we say if we can alleviate poverty by targeting class issues and economic factors and education, then we can help solve that problem of violence. Instead of doing any of that, they go. It's like you know that meme where they're all at the meeting and it's like the two people give a really bad one and the third guy gives a sane and they throw him out the window.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a guy and he's pounding the table. We need to do something about all this violence, and then someone says, like we can blame white nationalism. And the person says, we can blame Trump supporters, and the third guy goes, we can just help deal with the poverty that leads to violence. Throw them out the window.
Yeah.
Throw 'em out the window. It's easier for everyone to be like, how about we just march against white nationalism and
Bingo.
solve no problems?
Blame.
Bingo, because it's like the problem is the alternative is you have to slog through the hard stuff, right? You have to work through the education and like the psychology of criminality and all the other difficult things.
Families,
and, yeah,
and fatherless
exactly.
homes.
Culture.
And all of these other systemic problems that
sounds-
there's not a silver bullet for, and there's not a convenient bad guy for.
That
Yes.
sounds like hard work.
Exactly.
And you got to target compound interest, which undercuts the elite class of fiscal giants. They're making what's $100 billion make you a year in just basic 2.3% interest.
Yeah.
you know?
Putting it in the right investments. Meanwhile, I love that. I can't remember which comedian said this, but he was like, when you're poor, they charge you money.
Right.
Like you go to the bank and you're negative, so they're like, I got to charge you $35. Now you're negative $50. Meanwhile, when you're rich, they're like, sir, you're wealthy. Let me give you some more money.
Right.
For being
That's the way the
wealthy.
system works. Is it like? I understand the idea of interest. The bank uses your money for loans or whatever. To a certain degree, it's fractional reserve. It's a weird system. But like punishing the poor,
Right.
that's just ridiculous. It was always weird to me when I would get like an overdraft fee. I at one point where when I was like 18 or 19, lost a bank account because it went negative and I couldn't stop the negative continuing to go negative. And I just told them, I was like, you realize like I don't have money, right? That's why it's negative. And they're like, well, sir, there is a fee. What happened was it was like if you have less than a certain amount, you get a fee. and that fee put me negative. And then I got like a negative,
Yeah,
Bought
exactly.
a stick, a
Right.
pack of
fee.
gum
And
or
it-
something. They
No,
charge you
no, 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 no,
$35
no.
for
I
it.
had like $4 in the account, but it was a $5 checking fee because I
Yeah.
had under a certain amount. So then it went negative. Then they charged me the fee for being negative, and I showed up and said, "I don't got $35 to fix this."
Duh.
I was like, "I didn't know you were going to charge me right then, and I'm poor." And their response was, "Well, if you don't pay by next week, you can incur another fee." And I was like, "Then close the account. Congratulations." And now what are you going to do? You're going to try and get $35 from me I don't have?
I'd have like negative $2, and then I'd buy like you get a pack of gum, and then you go get a sandwich, and then you go buy like a 99-cent something, and they charge you $90, 35,
Yeah,
35,
exactly.
35.
3 separate fees.
And you call them, and you're like, "Hey, I didn't know I was in the negative. I'm going to deposit some money," and they're like, "I can get rid of half of your charges." You're
Yeah.
like, "Dude, you can get rid of all of them."
You literally
But if you
can.
act like a jerk, they won't help you at all.
Check this out. There was this crazy thing that happened in Chicago like 15 years ago with Chase Bank, where there was an error in the ATMs, and it wasn't subtracting money from people's accounts when they were withdrawing from ATMs, and so it led. So here's what happened though. So I go to the ATM, and it was like me and my friends were all going to a show, like a bar venue, and I put in my card. I had a couple $100, and I was like, "I'll take out $20." I see the amount. I take out $20. I look at the receipt, and it says the number didn't change. I'm like, that's got to be wrong. So I'll take another $20. I take another $20. The number didn't change. And I was like, what is this? So I put my
money
card
tree.
back in, and then I was like, I'm gonna take out $100. $100 comes out, and I got $140. I look at the receipt. It didn't change, and I went, this is messed up. So I deposited all the money back in except the 20.
Oh, you're such a good person.
No, because I'm like, dude,
There's a mistake.
They're gonna get you. They're
yeah,
gonna
there's-
get you.
yeah, and I'm not playing games.
yeah.
It was an error, and I thought it was going to give me the correct readout, but it wasn't. So I just put the money back in. Here's what happened: tons of people started being like, "Oh, free money!"
Yeah.
And then what happened the next day? The system updated, and everybody was negative like $100, $200.
That was
And then
so
all the
good.
fees and everything
Yup.
else.
Yeah.
And the bank was like, "Too bad." I'm like, did they do that on purpose?
Ugh.
Because they just like, imagine you do that. All the poor people think now's my chance to get some free money because the system is broken. No, it's not. It'll fix itself.
Amazing.
They'll
They know,
correct it.
Just because they don't know because the amount in your account is wrong doesn't mean they don't know how many times you took money out.
Right.
So it updated and then said withdrawal 2020, and then people were just like, I just lost
Got
all that
smoked.
money.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, you said you went with your friends to a bar venue. I got really nostalgic.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I want to go
Seriously.
hang out at a bar,
Yeah.
man.
We'll tell.
Right?
I mean, we have one nearby. You can go hang out at.
Yeah, but not with a mask.
Yeah.
I don't want to do
You-
that
it's
stuff.
outside?
I just want to go
Outdoor.
chill with like 50 people in a bar.
Yeah.
Get an IPA.
Sit
look
outside.
around at people. Relax.
So I did that last weekend.
Cool. Where?
This is I think this is the first time I've said this out loud, at least out of
Florida?
like my
secret.
apartment with my
confessing.
girlfriend. Yeah. So here's my public confession. I went to Nashville last weekend.
Wow.
I visited my brother who's down there, and he was like, he's thinking about moving down there, and so I went down and I was like, listen, I haven't seen the guy in a long time. We're super, super close. And I was like, I want to see him before he leaves. And, neither of us are getting any younger, whatever. And so I went down there, and I remember we went the first night, him and some of his buddies. And I remember just sitting in a bar, listening to a bar band, surrounded by people, and no one was wearing masks. And I was like, this feels so wonderful.
Cherish
I
it.
have people, like, for the first time in a year, I had people physically close to me, and I was like,
Yeah.
great, like,
Yes,
step
bring
on
it
my
in,
shoe,
man.
bump into me, like,
Sit
give
on
me a
my
hug,
feet.
man.
High
This
five.
is
This is- yeah.
fine.
This-
I don't mind this at
Right.
all.
This is one of the reasons why
was-
I was up in New Hampshire during the summer and spring because
Yeah.
it was normal life up there.
Yeah.
Large parties, large gatherings, and one of the lowest sick rates in the nation.
And I was going to say, and no one told the coronavirus in New Hampshire because for whatever reason, their rates lagged way behind everyone else in the country.
Well, how about we jump over to them super
let's
chats
do
we haven't
it.
already? If you haven't, smash that like button. Seriously, it really, really does help because the engagement is just fantastic. It lets YouTube know that you really do like the content. But don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Leave us your comments. Jump in the super chats while you can because we're going to start reading those. And go to timcast.com to become a member and get access to exclusive members-only content. Let's read some of these super chats. All right, let's see what we got here. We got Petty. This one's for you, Ian. He says, Ian, were you aware that J.P. Morgan sank the Titanic, which was actually the Olympic, not only as an insurance scam, but in order to kill 3 bankers who were opposed to the Federal Reserve and seize their assets? I don't know if that's actually true. I read that before, but I think it might be a conspiracy theory.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I've never heard anything about that. That's amazing.
Ian's giving this one a Google
Yeah, there
as
you
soon
go.
as the show
I
is
heard
over.
some
I would
theories,
bet on it.
but yeah, I haven't been able to confirm them
look it up,
yet.
yeah.
I haven't looked into it.
We have a very important factoid here.
Oh.
Black Lion Grunt says, Tim, fun fact. Did you know that Mortal Kombat is the reason the rating system for video games exists?
Ooh,
I
Oh,
miss
yeah.
the quarter wars in the arcade. Was it because it was too bloody?
Yeah,
And they were
definitely.
like, we got to tell people.
They're like, we have to allow some way for parents to know that they shouldn't give this to their children.
Particularly the spine ripping out of Scorpion, I think, is fatality.
I mean, yeah.
As
that
the
would do
mainstream media was playing that again and again, saying how bad it was over and
terrible.
over. I remember seeing that as a child, being like, why are they showing it then?
it. Yeah, right?
We got Rook says the golden Trump is a troll. We will never stop as long as the media cries. We are electing Trump again, period. It is Trump or nobody, Trump or no vote, period. I completely believe that.
Yeah, me too.
It's going to be Trump.
Listen, say whatever else you want about it.
We're going to
That's
do
true.
the golden Trump for the
Oh,
for the
cool,
bonus.
okay.
Yeah, we got to talk golden Trump, but it's going to be special and we're going to swear a lot. So
Yeah.
375 Shooter says Eric Weinstein stated on Lex's show, wait until everything is connected. History is producing rhymes and repeats via incest. What does that mean, though?
He's a big picture guy. I think once, I don't know when wait until everything is, once we can see the system, what's happening clearly. You know, we have the Great Reset, we've got COVID, we have the Federal Reserve, the finances, all this stuff, the wars all over, the energy systems, fusions on the horizon. Mars is becoming, like what we're going to see, we're going to look back on this and everything will start to make sense. The ancestral thing's very interesting too. You know, humanity is very ancestral as a species.
I'm glad you have the spinny thing in front of you.
Spin that
Yeah.
UFO.
Yeah.
Turk Longwell says, Tim, us folks who have fired weapons understand the damage, not these politicians. We need more veterans in office. Love the show. Spin that thingy. Can you see it on the camera?
I don't think so.
Let me give it a little spinny though, if I
I
can.
Can you
can't
pull
see
it
it
back?
at all.
Nothing in it.
No, you can't
no,
see
you
it.
can't see it no matter how far back you pull
All right,
it.
here, I'm going to lift it up. Oh,
Oh, no,
no.
you've ruined it.
maybe
no,
tomorrow,
magnets.
maybe Monday.
Oh,
The
wow.
levitating little flower pot has now been,
Decapitated.
yeah, it's over.
Yeah.
Disabled.
Totally right, though. We absolutely need. There was a really bizarre comment today from Leader McCarthy, or I guess no longer Leader, Minority Leader McCarthy, about not having guns on the Capitol premises. And listen, I didn't grow up around guns. I came to guns pretty late in life, and I know I'm not alone among the Republican Party in being that way. But it really read like someone who has always just sort of thought of guns as being very icky. And I think that it's very difficult for a lot of Republicans to recognize that the vast majority of the conservative movement does not see them that way.
But I mean, the interesting thing about guns is that even there's a ton of support from Democrats for guns.
Yeah.
So like there was that moment where the union working guy like questioned Biden on his guns.
Yeah.
You also have, blue states up in the Northeast. They're very pro-gun.
Yeah, Vermont.
It's only these like ultra urban coastal elites specifically that are anti-gun, and they have a lot of political power and a lot of money to push these things, like Bloomberg, for instance.
Yeah, it's far more a conversation too about class and about location. And so if you have people who are poor and rural, their feelings of on guns, regardless of their politics, are going to be far more supportive than anyone who lives in a city.
Yeah. We got Remy says nukes should be centralized. We don't need politicians or bureaucrats handling it. They can't even give COVID relief without arguing for months. Every major city would be a radioactive wasteland before we could send a response. Interesting.
I'm sympathetic to that, honestly. Like, if there's anything the government is good at, it's not making a decision particularly fast.
Yep.
Josh
Orwell.
Mabry says, Tim, you're right on the nuclear side. I was in missile maintenance in the Air Force. The whole point of deterrence is mutually assured destruction.
Right.
Yeah. If Xi Jinping says we fire the nukes, then Biden will fall asleep and then we die.
Yeah.
But the idea
Yep.
would be that you'd fire the nukes, so.
Yeah, exactly.
In theory.
Joshua Sanders says each nuke requires 2 keys to turn simultaneously to launch. Biden not having access to launch all the nukes, I think, is just a metaphor.
Huh.
Metaphor for what?
Interesting. I don't know.
Oh, I think that gets to the point about what are the sorts of steps that the people around him take as a result of him not necessarily having the mental capacity that he
Right.
needs to execute the office of the presidency.
Yeah, he
and so
certainly lacks.
today it's nukes, and in a few months it's who knows.
And are they saying that it takes 2 turnkeys, so like Biden can't wake up in the middle of the night and be like, oh, and turn the key?
No,
He
that's
needs a second person to do it with him.
I think
in a
that's
different
I
room?
think that's there has to be an operator there
Right.
who physically transacts on doing it, but there's
Knows
one
what they're
person
doing.
making the decision.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. America 76 says people should start saying Obama instead of Biden. The Okami cabal is in charge of this administration. Biden is a figurehead puppet, and the Republic is toast. Well then. Jesse Padilla says, Tim, I worked with a Syrian refugee that praised Trump for bombing the Syrian government and was happy to be living in America. Interesting.
Yeah, I buy that.
Advent Falling says, Tim, we're mostly in agreement. If not, I respect your point of view. However, GTFO, Ed and Eddie represent libertarian capitalism. Ed is freedom, Double D is innovation, and Eddie is ambition. Yes, fail often, teaching us to balance the Eds inside us all. I hated that show. They were losers.
Are these the super chats from yesterday?
No.
No,
We were
his
talking
person
about-
remembers
yeah.
Ed and Eddie though.
We were talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Potato Masher says, Luke, you are forgetting about the Kurds and the Peshmerga.
I'm not. I know about them, and the United States backed them and then turned their back on them when Turkey attacked them, and now the situation gets more perplexing.
That sounds right.
Brighton Klein says, would you guys consider having Tom McDonald on the podcast? Viral rapper against woke mob. P.S. Love the website. I laughed when I heard Tim cuss for the first time. Caught me off guard. Love your work. Oh yeah, we don't show on the family friendly version. The bonus stuff is for the adults late at night.
Sprinkles of the A word
laying in
tonight.
bed
Thanks,
and-
y'all.
It'd be funny to have an episode of where we cuss a lot, but it's all beeped out on YouTube one time. Just like a clip.
no,
like
what
this
we'll
is what's
do
on the
is
website. It's like 5 minutes of it.
We'll film a normal segment and then have someone go in and put strategic
Yes.
beeps randomly to
amazing.
change the context of everything we're saying.
Unnecessary
Yeah.
censorship.
We were just
Yes.
talking about Tom McDonald before the show. He's a
Yes,
big hit
he's
around
great.
here. I'd love to
Yeah,
have
he
him
just
on.
released Clown World.
Yeah, so
great music video.
we are going to have him on. He's fully invited and he knows this, and we're going to make it happen.
Nice.
Well,
Awesome.
some point, right?
Yep, it's going to happen.
Full Mental Alchemist says you should never give government any power. What we need is a real reset, as in a divorce. Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Saying it for years.
Andrew Ronta said, started listening after Michael Malice, who was on Cash Cab, was an amazing Alex Jones whisperer. I love the nightly convos, plans on a member's audio, RSS for the bonus content. So to Luke and the best, shout out to Luke and the bestpoliticalshirts.com.
Thank you
Nice.
very much.
We're working on a mobile app for the website. And then we're going to have OTT, it's called. So that's like Amazon and Roku and all that stuff. So then members will actually be able to watch the bonus content on their TVs.
Cool.
along with
That's
the full episode.
awesome.
It just takes time to build. So like putting together the first iteration of the website was not super difficult. You know, you get a person to like put together the layout, but then getting the actual core coding and development and apps and everything is actually going to be a
Takes a
much longer
while.
process. But we needed money to do it, so we had to start a website. And then once we got a bunch of members, I was like, okay, now I'll start improving it.
Yeah.
And then we're going to do a lot more. I mean, this app is going to have other kinds of content. We keep saying over and over again, we're going to go to the range, but then, you know, Luke didn't come to the range, so
How dare you?
how did I? What? It's true. We ran
I had a
drills.
family.
Luke
we
didn't wanna
went to
shoot.
I ain't gonna say nothing.
Brendan Toms says, give Biden the thinking cap from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that would help, definitely.
Yeah, that'd work.
Jav Tandez says, Tim, get Ed Calderon on the
yeah.
show. He is an ex-counter-narc agent from Mexico.
would
He's
love
got
to.
great insights about how cartels will become a bigger problem in America in the future. Reach him at edsmanifesto.com.
Yes,
Definitely.
indeed.
We will note that down.
He's in my mind.
Dantic VS says, been following y'all for about a year now. Thanks for preparing me for 2020. Luke's video with Wesley Clark was shocking. Heard you guys like RPGs. Ever heard of Rifts? Bebop is my second favorite anime.
You think that video shocking when you watched it? Imagine being the interviewer with Wesley Clark and seeing his face and being like, "Oh boy, I'm probably in trouble too." So yeah, that was pretty. Yeah.
I've never heard of Rifts. Have you?
No, I haven't heard of it. No.
Maybe I have heard of it.
I started playing Genshin Impact a little bit.
What is it?
It's a newish game. It's open world RPG. I think it's online. I haven't played enough to be able to tell you too much about it, but it's like very anime style, kind of like Breath of the Wild in some ways. We'll see. I don't know if I'm going to be into it and actually end up playing it.
Valheim's pretty good.
Yeah.
It's a development team
survival
of 5 people.
Viking
Yeah.
game.
It's
Crazy.
5 people. It's got up to 4 million views in 4 weeks or something. 4 million users.
So Seven Empire says none of us are virgins. The establishment has funked us all. By Cardano. What's Cardano?
I think it's another privacy cryptocurrency.
I've been hearing about it
it's
from
made
people.
by the same guys that did. Ooh, geez, I don't want to mispronounce it. It's Ada is the company that does it. God, what did they do? They were involved with Ethereum, I think. I don't know, to be honest. I'd love to get their
Interesting.
developers in here, though.
I mean, I've been seeing people tweet about it. Let's read some more about my friends. Don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe. Fox Coon says, fascism is a form of far-right authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and the economy. Interesting.
Wait, I want to clarify on Cardano. I think Ada is the token and
Right.
Cardano is the company. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah. Tyrell Wilson says, for my stakes, as long as it's still bleeding and moving, then it's
There
perfect.
it is.
Ooh.
Oh, could not agree more.
It's trying to get away.
Yeah,
You're chasing
right.
it down and you jump on it. You know?
Some people,
Right,
Steve
exactly.
Rinella, Rogan's buddy. Did you ever
Yes.
see Meat Eater, where they all went
Steve
hunting
Rinella,
together?
yeah.
He like kill an animal, cut out the gullet, and like eat it raw, eat the liver raw.
Jeez.
All right, that's
Apparently it's
a little
amazing
bit too
for you.
metal to me. I'll be
Hardcore.
Aren't
honest.
there
I
like
don't think I'll do that.
parasites in it?
I don't know.
Sometimes,
You got to ask Steve Ranella.
Yeah.
Crazy.
It's very funny. I remember we were talking, my girlfriend and I, about how like the human body can no longer process meat because that was just a thing that I thought was true. Totally not true. You can eat raw meat.
Yeah. I
Interesting.
eat steak tartare all
There's
the
some
time.
people that do, yeah.
Steak tartare is amazing.
really
Never
is.
had
Like
it.
the
It's
quail
like
egg
steak
on it.
Yeah.
sushi.
Yeah. I always just assumed you had to cook it. Who knows?
Guess
As
not.
long as it's good quality and
Yeah.
parasite free.
Right.
Well, don't do chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I went to a burger place once, and I got a grilled chicken sandwich, and I was like sitting at the bar, and the lady was like, "What can I get you?" And I was like, "I'll get the chicken sandwich, and I'll have that one medium rare," as a joke. It was like, so the guy next to me said he wanted his well done, and I said, "I'll get the chicken sandwich, but I'll have mine medium rare." And she goes, "Okay," and I was like, "Wait, I was kidding. You can't do that." And she went, "Oh."
Yeah.
And then I was like, "Okay."
I would have left. I would have fled.
Yeah.
Well, I imagine she would have gone back, and the guy would have been like, "I can't make a chicken sandwich medium rare."
Okay, good point.
Because of salmonella. And
Yeah.
you can't
Yeah,
do
the chickens are
pig
dirty.
because of trichinosis, but for some reason beef is okay and fish is
Chicken
okay.
is pork.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sushi grade fish.
Sushi grade
Yes.
fish.
Yeah, otherwise you can get
Certain
sick.
kind of fish.
Let's see. Coldy Locks Productions says, "We can push Russia around because we broke their backs financially in the Cold War with the Star Wars project, making them think we were developing extremely advanced tech, and they tried to match us spending all their money."
Oh.
Wow, crazy.
Smart.
Yeah. They also just kind of ran out. Like the central planning doesn't work too well, unfortunately, for the Soviets.
Right.
And so they learned the hard way that like freedom and free enterprise do tend to work pretty effectively.
Sammy Joel says, "Tim, will you please get Flecka's talks on the show? Also, I think that Biden Indiana Jones meme was made by his producer, Richard Ratboy. Flecka's is always welcome.
He has a standing invite, and he knows this.
We've never had him on, have we?
We haven't. No.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, Flecka's, come on the
We
show. What are you
should,
doing?
yeah.
You should be on the show. Ultimate Bonner. It's French, I'm imagining.
Sounds like it.
Says, "So I don't think that Oregon would ever allow those counties to merge into Idaho because then they'd lose all the money from those counties. It's kind of the same up in Washington with Seattle. Everyone in the state hates them. That's the problem."
Yeah.
You know, look, you've got to have a strong petition. Like, you can't look. The left knows how to protest. They know how to occupy an office or sit in a street, and it works. They put pressure on. They get it done. And to be honest, they have the advantage of being able to be violent because, you know, Republicans or people on the right are second-class citizens in that regard. If you do anything in any capacity that's violent, it'll be every headline news outlet. But Antifa can, you know, burn down entire cities, and you know, it's a peaceful protest. But I'm saying, get organized. You know, you can't just be like, we voted. You've got to be like, we are going to boycott. We are going to general strike. Imagine if they're like, we want these counties because they make us money, and everyone said, well, we're going to go on a general strike then.
Yep.
Then what are they going to say? Now you're just being hampered by this. I mean, wasn't there some big thing like a bunch of tractors came out and like blocked roads or
Finland,
something?
yeah.
Where was that, in Finland?
It was in Finland.
Yeah, that's
I don't
crazy
understand
stuff.
US.
Yeah.
Yeah. Quint Giuffre says Princess Cruise Lines had 45 original cases.
Yeah, I remember.
That was the
Yeah.
first. That was the first one, right?
That's exciting. Yeah.
Yep.
Good times.
Michael Revell says, this team, Luke, Tim, Ian, and Lydia is great. Mr. Holden is cool too. I look forward to this every night. Keep up the hard work. Well, so long as y'all subscribe and go to the website, become members, smash the like button and super chat, we'll just keep doing it.
We
because
count on you guys.
But the ultimate goals with all of this is to grow the company and hire more people and do more awesome work.
I love having you on, Drew. It's really fun.
Thank you.
Yeah,
As soon
he's
as soon
great.
as I heard all you guys' names and then Mr. Holden, I was like, oh god, I'm gonna get roasted.
Mr.
I was like, someone's absolutely gonna take a shot at
Just
me right
Holden.
now,
Yeah.
and like, I was sitting here the whole time. I was like, oh no, quick.
We got some interesting super chats.
Oh.
Kevin Bergman says, as a fifth-generation Oregonian from the state of Jefferson, I would support Greater Idaho. California has invaded Portland, Pacific Northwest, and taken over our politics.
Could see it.
Yeah.
Mr. Beard says, Wyoming here. I work in IT at a high school. We had a delegation from Weld County come through and check out how our school is like. Wyoming already has voiced support. I want to see that happen.
Yes,
too.
me too.
That would be
Me
such.
too.
It would like a pressure release valve
Yep.
for a lot of the hot politics in this country.
Yeah,
Serious.
yeah, and that's the other thing too. Is like there are an enormous number of benefits, but also talk about an excellent way to decrease political strife between the parties.
Yes. I actually lived in Weld County for about a year. It's a wonderful county. It's very rural, super like low key farmers. Everything's cool and chill. Far cry from like Denver and Boulder.
What's the situation with Weld? What's happening in Weld County?
They're thinking
It's the
about moving up
Colorado.
to Wyoming.
They're on the
they
board
are
with
too.
Wyoming, and they
Yeah.
want to be a part of Wyoming.
Greatness.
Yeah. Who wouldn't, right?
Kay Purdue says, I am Canadian. Our isolation camps are horrifying. Please check out Chris Sky. He sends Ubers to the hotels to help us escape. Really?
I've never in my life.
What is going on?
I've never ever considered any ill will towards Canada or concern, or
messed
I thought it was the most free, awesome
No
country.
way, dude.
Like, this is terrifying.
That's
It's always been pretty bad. Yeah. All right, what do we got? Toby Walker says, curious what Ian or any of you think about Cardano over Ethereum solves gas fee and governance issues of Ethereum.
Yeah,
I don't know anything about it.
I hear it's like the next generation Ethereum.
Really?
Interesting.
Maybe I will look into it. Maybe I will look into it. Jonathan Westcott says, instead of Greater Idaho, they need new states so they have less concentrated power, more electoral seats, can flip, and aren't held hostage by large states. Well, look, if you break off a bunch of rural counties into their own states, then the Republicans just win.
Right.
And the blue cities are like, it's not fair.
Yeah, and no one will agree with it, right? Even writ large. And I think that the beauty of being able to get into other states is that you get around that sort of concern.
All right, the Civic Nationalist says the American Revolution was started by smugglers. The tea tax was paid in Britain and was propaganda by smugglers because they didn't want to lose on the monopoly. Come back home. You can give up this thing called presidency. Sing God Save the Queen. I wonder if there could ever be any circumstance in which the U.S. decides to be a part of the Commonwealth again.
No.
As an Irish American, I will say I am strongly against this very idea. But
did you guys see that video that went viral of the Irish guy at the checkpoint?
Oh my goodness.
No.
I love
It's
that
just-
man. I'm channeling him.
It's just audio, but apparently it's an Irish guy, and he pulls up to a checkpoint in Ireland, and then he just starts. They're like, "How's it going, sir? Where are you going?" He's like, "None of your goddamn business." And then he starts yelling at him, and then he starts screaming like. It was really amazing. He's like,
think I
"We fought
related
for
to him.
800 years, and now you
About
treat
the
us worse than the
English,
British
yeah.
Army did." It's just a
that's
really
amazing.
I
Okay,
gotta send it
I
to
gotta
you,
listen to
Drew.
that. Yeah, I was
It
gonna say
was-
this sounds incredibly up my
wonderful,
alley.
So
yeah.
it's just audio, but someone shows this like super ripped farmer guy waving the Irish flag, and then it shows like a cop,
Little
like a,
puny
like a
cops.
cop
Yeah.
waving a rainbow
Like the
flag.
dogs meme. Yeah.
Amazing.
It's just crazy audio where like it's really interesting to hear someone say like we fought for 800 years. And now
Yeah.
you would treat us worse than the British Army did.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
like, that is bold. And then the best part, oh man, I don't know a whole lot about politics between Ireland and the UK. Just a little bit on the surface. I know about like the IRA. I went to Northern Ireland. I went to Belfast.
We went there together
went there and we
during
saw
the
bonfire
burning of
night.
the effigies
Yeah, yeah.
that they had there.
But once a really interesting thing happens is he's like, you believe the Irish guy says, you believe all this stuff? You believe all this stuff? And then he's like, do you watch the news, sir? And he's like, oh, the news. And he's like, do you watch RTE? And he's like, RTE is shite. And then he's like, well, what about the BBC? And he goes, oh, the Crown News Service. I should listen to the Crown News. And I'm like, this Irish guy is
love
laying
this
into
man.
these people.
amazing.
No, but it's really interesting for them to recommend the BBC to an Irish guy.
Yeah.
I was like, I'd imagine that would piss off a lot of them. You
Yes.
think that's who
Yeah.
I'm going to be listening to for my news?
Yeah.
But then again, look, we went to Belfast. I don't know a whole lot about the internal politics.
There's a lot.
Other
of
than-
history.
I think a lot of it probably comes down to there's a certain provisional sensibility that some Irish I think have probably in Dublin and the surrounding areas where like, well, why wouldn't you like England and the rest of the Europeans? And I would imagine some of the folks in the rural areas have a little
big
bit of
cities, yeah.
a little bit more sensitivity about these sorts of
Yep.
things.
Same as America.
Mm-hmm.
In that way.
All right. Toby Walker says, please look into having a blockchain expert like Charles Hoskinson. I also on the show. I also hoped y'all enjoyed the brushtail coffee.
Oh yeah.
Did we have that?
No, I haven't had it yet.
We got the
I've been
magnets
drinking
and everything.
Krigler coffee these days.
Oh yeah.
Krigler coffee.
Oh,
I highly
Ian's
recommend.
heart
It's
belongs to Krigler
delicious.
coffee.
But I'll take the brush tail next.
Politically Defiant
Thanks for
says,
reminding
Tim, Idaho already has a seaport. It's Lewiston, Idaho, as the Snake River connects to the Columbia River, which connects to the Pacific Ocean via Portland, Oregon. Hope everyone has a most wonderful weekend. Stay epically awesome. We will have a very wonderful
Will
weekend.
do.
It will be fun. The weather's getting really nice.
Yeah.
You
Good point about the Snake River too. I'd forgotten that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael Witten Campbell says Eastern Washington of Washington State talked about this 2 years ago or 3 years ago. They wanted to go to Idaho, which would split the state in half. Could you imagine if Eastern Washington and Oregon joined Mega Idaho,
Idaho.
Ultra Idaho,
Yes.
or just became North Idaho,
Greater Idaho.
and then you had
Yeah,
North
yeah.
and South Idaho?
I love it.
Hey,
I hope they just call it Idaho, not Greater Idaho.
I like Greater Idaho.
There's so many puns you can
well,
make
we got
with
a
that
very
name.
we got a very serious correction on our
Oh no.
on our
Thank you, chat.
story about that. What kind of vegetable?
Eggplant.
No.
Potato.
Is it the potato?
Up. See, I was avoiding saying it because he says, "Excuse
Spud.
me, I think you mean potatoes."
Oh yeah.
We can't say potato anymore
right.
because the O is, we got to get rid of that.
Right, vowels were
It's
sexist.
gendered or
Yeah, I
something.
forgot. Yeah.
All right, Shoddy Vice, where he says, quick PSA, completely off topic, Make sure to drink water. I had my first kidney stone, and oh boy, getting a catheter hurts a crap ton.
Worst.
Yeah.
Amen, sir.
Taking another sip, great
Drink
point.
your
Always a
water.
great reminder.
We're 74% water.
I was told by the doctor to put a little bit of lemon juice in your water, but drink it with a straw because the
Bad for the
acid can be
teeth.
bad for your teeth.
Yep.
And your lips, probably.
Cassius Cam says, I'm from the state of Jefferson. We already call it that up here. We produce nearly all the beef and water for California. We just want to be left alone.
Interesting.
I
Well,
like it.
then just start acting like you're the state of Jefferson. I mean, it sounds like you are. They fly the flags up there.
The agricultural differences are curious too, right? Because I mean, I think that's one of the other reasons why these places have so much value, why California would be so unwilling to lose them, but why they'd be so attractive to other places.
Yeah.
Hellbound Wolf says, you talk about fifth generational warfare and how our colleges have been infiltrated by the Chinese. Trans ideology started in colleges. It was our youth willingly. Well, look, for the sake of YouTube, this is too spicy, and they're going to get me banned if I read the super chat. So I know they're
Interesting,
watching.
yeah.
But I'll just say
coming
he's
from
talking about a
colleges.
lot of leftist politics and how it's,
Coming from college, higher education, yeah.
We're all on campus now.
Yep.
In the
Jacob-
words of Andrew Sullivan, everything about American public life starts on college campuses these days and transmutes away off really quickly.
It's true.
Jacob N.M. Clutter says, Tim, Article 5 doesn't apply to new states or land transfers. That falls under Article 4, which requires
Oh.
approval of both states in question and congressional approval. Article 4, Convention of States. There you go.
Yeah.
Good fact check, though.
Casey Schultz says, Mr. Potatoes Head. Well, I'm sorry. Potatoes
Potato
Head.
Head.
No, it's Potatoes Head.
Oh, sorry.
Was a
MX.
character in Toy Story. So,
FX.
oh, yes, mix. So if Mr. Potato Head is bad now, then how long until they try to cancel and erase that
Oh,
series?
boy. Surprised they haven't already.
Sparky.
Toy Story.
Sad.
Toy Story.
Sparky the Biro says, just had a thought. If Mr. and Mrs. Potatoes Head are now socially illegal, are they going to digitally remove them from all
Yep,
those Toy
yep.
Story
Oh
movies?
my
is the
God,
question.
amazing.
No, what they're going to do is they're going to digitally alter them to be identical.
Blobs.
And then just have them called, both will be called, they'll be referred to as mix.
Yeah.
Mixed Potato Head and Mixed Potato Head. That's
Yeah,
it.
and then they'll have to go in and they'll have to change the subtitles so
Yes.
that both of them are MX
Right.
Potato Head.
I'm surprised they're not Z and Y.
I know, right?
Sic Semper Tyrannis says, Tim and the gang, y'all got to get a 12.7 millimeter by 99 50 BMG anti-material rifle. Long live the Republic. God bless y'all and stay safe.
We will with that.
What's
Yeah, what is
I-
that?
What an
Interesting.
excellent,
Yeah.
excellent
What if we had that?
suggestion.
Sounds like that could do some damage.
That sounds interesting.
Anti-material meant for destroying material? Is that what that is?
It's for blowing up helicopters and tanks.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's like, yeah. you-
Somebody commented in the chat before, and they were like 50 BMG for when you need to when you need to kill a building.
Yes, please.
JK says in Newfoundland, they put the province under house arrest and called an election. The size of Japan and 600,000 residents, 4 deaths and months between cases. What did you by our provincial greeting? What did you by? I don't know that. Well, it's beyond me. I don't live there.
But that's insane. Like that's, and again, an empowered government. Why wouldn't they?
Yeah. Tim says if Greater Idaho idea occur, then precedent set. Counties can vote to do the same. Dangerous and stupid idea. Split divide the U.S. like Israel Palestine. It already is.
It's too late.
Look at the past several elections. It's been like 50-50 and struggling. You know
Look
what I
at
mean? There's
Democrats'
no
concerns.
unified culture anymore.
It wouldn't be split like Israel and Palestine, though. Those are two different languages and religions. Like it would just be different
happening.
states.
No, that's what's happening.
But I also think that if you had different states, it would be like as you mentioned earlier, a really good release valve where
Yeah.
you wouldn't
Right.
have people who were resentful and frustrated by the fact that they had been politically disenfranched.
But
they
I
would just
think-
be mad about normal things.
But I think that would just redraw lines and get us ready for a
It
civil
would
war.
do that. A lot of people would have their hand in the honey pot trying to get a bonus with those
What would happen
line
is-
redraws.
The red states would become 10 times redder. The blue states would become 10 times bluer. It would solidify all the political divide. And that's a really dangerous precedent.
get
But
worse.
it's I don't see a way around what's happening. The divide in this country is so insane that I literally tweeted. So there was an image of those people in those pods, and the kids in the
Yeah,
school.
yeah.
And I said,
Tuba
if you're crazy enough to do this, then you deserve what you get. Go vote for whatever you want. And I got a response from a tribal leftist I know who says, "You're so dumb. Why would these kids want to spit on each other?" And I'm like, slow down there, buddy. I didn't say the pods. I didn't say anything. It was a picture of kids in school. For all he knew, I could have been saying if you're stupid enough to go to these schools in the first place when you are advocating for them to be closed. The point is, how is it that when I say an image of these kids in these pods is insane, a guy who advocates for schools to remain closed is now saying, well, they should be in the pods. They don't spit on each other. No, they shouldn't be in the school according to you. But these people have no principles. The tribalism is everything. I just hate you because you're in the wrong tribe. And this is going to lead to people fighting each other worse than we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, we got
and nothing's stopping it. No, the Democrats are making it worse. We went over this the other night with the Echelon Insights polls. You see this? Yes. Where Republicans were asked to rate their strongest concerns.
Oh, I did see this.
Illegal immigration and taxation and
Trump
police.
voters were the number one.
And then white nationalists and then white supremacy, because the Democrats are screaming in the face that Republicans are evil, and Republicans are sitting there going, I think illegal immigration is bad for our economy. You know what? I think it was Jesse Kelly said conservatives lost the culture war because they weren't fighting it.
Yeah.
Or he said the Democrats won the culture war because they were the only ones fighting it.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these people who are asked, and they're conservative, they're Republican. What do they care about? And they give you a policy issue. You're sitting here as the left is screaming, threatening to go after you, to kick your representatives out of Congress, to send the feds to go arrest them, to claim that any kind of violence from these Trump supporters is the end of the world. They're calling it 1-6. It was 1-6. We need a 1-6 commission. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Antifa burned down all of these cities, $2 billion in damage, and that was the insurance cap, so substantially more than that. Nothing. There is a battle happening. There is a conflict going on. And look, the solution to whatever it is out of my reach. I can tell you, like I've said over and over again, violence isn't going to solve any of these things because we're in fifth generational warfare. So maybe people need to assert their rights and say, we want an Article 4 convention to redraw these lines, because at the very least, then we will have a pressure release valve from the people who are, the people right now trapped in these places, like in Jefferson, are probably boiling over, furious. Exactly. Give them that release. It may be bad in the long run because it just hyperpolarizes states, but it's better to alleviate the tension than to let it explode. When what happens when they say, no, we won't give you this reprieve? And then the people in Jefferson say, then we're going to call our buddies and we're going to set up a barricade, set up our own police force.
Yeah, exactly.
And then chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Allison C. says, everyone's all worked up about Lady Mockingjay's dogs. No one gives a damn about the dog walker who was shot 4 times in the chest. Elites. Yeah.
He's doing well, I guess.
Really?
Dabs on him. Yeah, he's coming back.
It's good.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
Thomas David says you also get charged $2,000 to stay in on those lockdown hotels in Canada. Yeah. Wow, crazy.
You have to pay for that. We were talking about that on the show, and it's even steeper in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, it's bad.
OMG Puppy says, FBI investigates Lady Gaga's stolen dogs. In Seattle, the John Brown Gun Club shot 2 black teenagers joyriding through Chaz. The city doesn't care. Welcome to America in 2021. Why did I say that?
Because you're a prophet.
That's right. Julius Camina says, pretty sure Norm Macdonald, Dave Chappelle, and Danny DeVito took the dog. Man, are they screwed when they get caught.
Yeah.
Those guys specifically, huh? Captain Spanky says, Tim, I'm in Harney County, Oregon. Today was the first I've heard of Greater Idaho. Our county voted around 75 to 80% Trump. Hopefully it comes to fruition.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
No, hopefully, yeah. All right, let's see. DJ Madero says the state of Jefferson was going to be announced on Monday, December 8th, 1941. Just think if they had done it on Friday, December 5th, 1941. What would the West Coast of the United States look like today? I mean, look, California's too big. I think California, Jefferson should exist. It makes a lot of sense. But, then people will, actually, I'm curious as to what made like these cities in Oregon, Seattle, and Portland so blue that turned the whole state under the control of the Democrats. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's just a size thing, right? Like so many of these counties are so sparsely populated that all it takes is a big city or two that's overwhelmingly left-leaning, and it's enough to skew it pretty meaningfully.
Yeah.
That's my guess. And like even Washington State and in Oregon, even 10 years ago, there were at least a number of Republicans, right? And like they've all in one case and most in the other have been wiped out.
All right, let's see. Jonathan McLee says Charlie LaDuff is now suing Governor Whitmer for covering up the COVID numbers in Michigan, accusing her of all the things Cuomo has done. Ooh, Interesting. We should reach out to Charlie.
Yeah, it seems like there's pretty good evidence that they made a lot of the same decisions that Cuomo did.
Yep.
Oh yeah, they did tons of them.
Yeah.
And are covering up all the numbers the same way.
All right,
Cuomo
let's
did.
just grab. We'll grab one more super chat.
Charlie.
Eric Rivera 219 says this $20 is for Ian. Tim, we tune in for the whole team. You preach freedom of speech, but are always condescending or cutting Ian off. A lot of people think like him. Well, then.
I will say
Ian.
he's not always condescending at all. And in fact, very rarely. But in those heated moments where we maybe condescend each other, it is not intentional. That is not the goal. Tim and I like to goad each other. We don't. I mean, I don't know. I can't speak for you.
Conversations
I just
happen.
let myself get heated when I'm talking to you. I find it entertaining, engaging, and I'm a better and more vibrant person afterwards.
Challenging. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you have not already, smash that like button because it really, really does help. The engagement is good for these channels. And subscribe. We are very, very close to 1 million subscribers.
Please.
And I think it'll be another month and a half or so. But it might pick up. You know, the beginning of the year is always kind of crummy in terms of just like engagement. Everyone's kind of worn out, especially after an election. Yeah. Everybody who works the political and news beat knows that like the few months after any election, everyone's like, stop, enough. I don't want to think about this anymore. And then, you know, it just goes down. So show your support. Subscribe, like button, go to timcast.com. And we're going to have some exclusive bonus material up. Probably just a short extra bonus segment today where we talk about what we're going to talk about. The
Golden Trump?
The Golden Trump.
Yes.
And you're going to want to hear this one.
Yeah.
Gilded
We
Trump.
got some opinions.
So follow me on all social media platforms at Timcast. You can check out my other YouTube channels, youtube.com/Timcast and youtube.com/TimcastNews. Check out this podcast every Monday through Friday live at 8 p.m. And if you're listening on iTunes, Spotify, or any other platform, leave us a good review and give us all those stars because that also helps us very much. And you want to shout anything out, Drew?
No, I don't really have anything to shout out. Go follow the Timcast. I mean, that's what you should be doing.
Yes, follow us.
Like, throw me a follow on Twitter too. It's Drew Holden 360. But yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, man, you got the threads.
Well, on Twitter, Instagram, and even YouTube, I am Luke. We Are Change. My main channel is We Are Change. And I forgot to say this. I also have like my own members area that I've been doing it sporadically for like 7 years on some tips and tricks. You can check that out on wearechange.org/donate. And because you do, I'm here. So thanks so much for having me, guys.
You guys can also follow me at iancrossland.net where I sell merchandise like this delicious Free the Code mug where I was drinking Krigler coffee out of earlier. It's magnificent. Drew,
coffee.
Always awesome to have you. Yeah, Adam Krigler has his own coffee brand called Krigler
it's
Coffee.
funny.
Krigler Coffee. Always awesome having you here, man. Time flies when you're here. I love it.
I know,
hope you come
right?
back soon.
Hey, pleasure's mine. I thank you guys for having me.
Yeah,
Seriously, it's fascinating every time I'm on here. I love the conversation, and it does. I mean, I've never had a moment on here, and I'll be honest, I can't always say this about everywhere I've been, but I've never had a moment here where I'm like, what are we going to talk about next? We've always got something to talk about.
5 people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And different worldviews and opinions.
Yeah.
If there's ever like a lull in the show, I'll be like, Luke, the government? Ian, free the code?
Let's go.
The Federal Reserve?
Oh, yeah.
DMT?
Okay. All the above. I guess that's Monday's show.
Yeah.
No, but it'll be like, you'll sense that lull coming in. And someone will be like, I just don't agree that Pac-Man was the greatest character. and then as everyone starts to like slow down, I'll go, it's interesting too, but I wonder what the government has to say, Luke.
What do you think, Luke? Yeah.
Oh, the government.
Ron Swanson is my spirit
I
animal.
know, right?
So,
Oh,
truly.
he's great. I love him too.
Hey,
Yeah.
we're also, I forgot Lydia. I didn't
Yes.
forget. I was just
yeah,
waiting
yeah.
to.
Yeah. I'm here in the corner. I push the buttons. I like to talk about the science. I love the science. I really like talking about it because I worked in the hospital. So anytime we have content about COVID and stuff, I'm always interested in that. But you can follow me on Twitter and Minds. I'm Sour Patch Lids on those platforms, and then I'm Real Sour Patch Lids on Instagram and Gab.
We will see you all over at timcast.com as we talk about the large golden Trump. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you there.
Bye, guys.